What happens when a promoter texts you, I'm working on this event and we'd love to have a guitar player from the district play this beautiful and legendary status song. I thought of you, what do you think? And at the same time that I'm really excited to do it and even think to myself, I have the perfect guitar for it that I had made for these specific scenarios and you wouldn't even imagine, but I love the song and I've been wanting to cover it for years. There's only one problem. I look at my schedule and calendar and between work and all sorts of other projects, I only have a maximum of 10 days to work on it. Crazy, right? Perhaps. This is what this documentary is all about. This is an obvious example of what I like to call the autopilot syndrome. Nothing very crazy here. This might be the only time I have to practice.
I left my backpack at home.
My computer just can't handle it. You really can't tell I'm sick. So update, it sucks ass. It sounds really, really bad. Gonna have to figure out another solution. I'm just going to briefly preface this as I'm Mark from the future compared to the other vlog sections that you're going to be watching. Even though I was told about this gig way earlier than just 10 days before, I was not only busy with all sorts of projects, but I was also having some personal and work problems, which really took away a lot of my time. So I decided to, while vlogging during the 10 days, not do any setup or commentary or even history stuff so that I could really make use of all the time that wasn't really that much to just focus on the song and the arrangement. So whenever you see this angle and this t-shirt, it's now after those recordings, and I'm just going to insert myself into some of the vlogs, mostly to just give you a little bit of extra context. Now let's be clear about this. I'm no historian. I knew bits and pieces of the lore and then I studied a little bit more to do these sections of the videos, not only by reading articles in old magazines and journals and looking up for stuff online, also watching some documentaries and the movie itself, but I'm going to leave the disclaimer here that something I might say might not be 100% accurate, but it's all with good intentions, and if anything, if any Portuguese people are watching this and want to chime in the comments and leave more information or correct me, please be free to do it. And if you're not Portuguese and want to learn more about it, please go do your own research. A bunch of these documentaries, movies, and interviews, or even research papers are mostly in Portuguese, so they might not be super easy to translate. But if you do, trust me, I think it's probably going to be worth your while, since you're probably not going to know who I am. My name is Mark Henriques. I'm a Portuguese electric guitar player, but I mostly think of myself as a composer. In fact, if you'd like to, you can go into my YouTube channel, or pretty much anywhere else you listen to your music at, and go listen to some of my albums, EPs, and other stuff. While most of my released songs have been in this like pseudo-symphonic progressive instrumental rock genre. Which you can find between volumes 1 to 3 of Brad Baker demos. I love all sorts of music and compose in all sorts of music, which is kind of the main reason I got this guitar. I designed this instrument along with Rui Silva guitars, and while I've been busy with all sorts of projects and haven't been able to release as much music with this guitar than I would like to, the truth is I'm always working on arrangements of songs in like these solo guitar arrangements. There's a whole set of videos which you can watch straight about it, but what you need to know is that it's a 7-string guitar, mostly with a telly layout. These pickups look like P90s, but they're not P90s if you're a guitar player nerd, and it has an extra lower string which allows me to do a little bit more of chordal arrangements and add some interesting bass notes to pre-existing chords that perhaps you can't do on a regular guitar unless you're down tuning or experimenting with alternate tunings. And while we'll be seeing each other again, let's perhaps just go straight into day 1 and learn more about it and other things along the way. I just want to mention, sorry for the whole janky setup for this first section. I left my computer exporting like 50 videos during the night, and they were all small videos and nothing very crazy, but for some reason my computer crashed, so now I need to having it exporting videos, which means that I have to be listening to the song through my iPad connected to the speakers, and I don't have access to my regular microphone setup, but it would either be this or nothing, and I'm doing this because that way I'm forcing myself to do it and not leaving it and then procrastinating and then not even doing it in the first place. And who knows, maybe you wouldn't even have noticed if it wasn't for like the new moon that my guitar keeps reflecting over here. So probably the first thing we should do is listen to the song. Now the song itself that I'm going to be playing is especially special to me because if you've seen some of my older videos, you know that I have a thing for film scoring. Not only have I talked throughout my social medias about different movie scores and themes, but I've also made my own fun challenge videos of trying to make a theme for a specific character, movie, TV show, video game, whatever it might be, but in a challenge format of a spin the wheel type where I get some sort of restriction like the director of a movie would give to a composer in the way of vibe, mood, genre, whatever it might be. And this song that we're going to be covering, Verdes, or Verdes Anos if you want to be like that, which basically translates to Green Years, is actually the main theme for a movie called The Green Years, Os Verdes Anos. which I hadn't yet watched before the proposition of this gig appeared. Not for any specific reason, just I didn't really had the proper timing to do it. So when you put together all these ingredients, a Portuguese song by a Portuguese artist for the Portuguese guitar, which I don't exactly play, but even then, guitar-oriented song that I already wanted to cover in the first place, and it's a theme for a movie, I couldn't feel more connected with this. Well, I guess I could if, hypothetically, the way that the song is composed, like the note choices, the chord progressions, were any bit like the sort of sensibilities that I have, but surely that would be way too much of a coincidence, right? This is a song that I've been wanting to work on for a bunch of time now. There's this great Portuguese guitar player that I follow on Instagram, and he's great, I love his tone and his style, and he covered this song in a resonator guitar, and as soon as I heard it I was like, damn, he got to it first. And obviously none of this is a competition. My arrangement will of course be somewhat different. I will not be basing myself on any version other than the original one, but yeah, I'll be listening to the song for this first part, try to connect to some of the themes, figure out the key center and chord changes, that sort of a thing. So let's see where this goes. This was the first listen, and like I said, I kind of knew a little bit of the song already. The main theme is just very beautiful and ear-catching in the first place. It's a small song too, just 3 minutes long, and to me there are these two main sections, which makes it a little bit easier for me, because we can then try and arrange things a little bit differently, while still maintaining the vibe of the song, but it makes it a little bit more freeing than having a very strict layout and structure. The song is slightly out of tune, but it's mostly good enough to just play along in 440. It's clearly in G minor. Which is kind of cool because it's a good key for the 7th string. We can make use of a couple of open strings and also profit of lower notes like the D, E flat, and C. It's very much a modal G minor melody, but it has some interesting chord changes. Don't quote me on that, but it feels like we're going like G minor 7, or maybe even an F or B flat, and then to a C chord. Perhaps even C7 or C7-9, which in some ways is like a G minor 6. Now, in case it's not been clear enough, I'm learning the song by ear, so I'm playing the song, trying to hear the chord changes, trying to identify some of the roots and some of the extensions. Like, there's plenty of parts in there where I can listen to some of the intervals and bass note changes going on, and I hear an A, and I'm like, oh, we're in G minor, kind of like a G natural minor-ish scenario. So like A, this is probably A half diminished, which will probably lead us to like a D7, which will then resolve us back to G minor. A mix of functional harmony mixed with theory, mixed with just kind of like experience of listening to a bunch of songs and learning a bunch of songs over the years. So my thought process is I should probably listen to the song a couple of more times, try and really get the structure and themes in my head, try to figure out the melody properly, and after I do figure out the melody, I should probably figure out the chords, and then try and mesh things together. I can probably do everything at the same time, the song isn't that complicated, but even then, it doesn't hurt to keep things segmented, because in some ways, I kinda need to be able to just play the song as it is, almost as if I was just doing a regular cover, and then work on my own arrangement of it. Which at this point, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a like your demo style arrangement in more of a symphonic, progressive, instrumental rock sort of a vibe, or if I'm going to go for a more solo guitar sort of a piece. But I guess we'll figure that out along the way, won't we? And because I'm Portuguese, probably our most recognizable genre would be fado music, or I guess for like an American pronunciation would be fado. And it's known for being a very melancholic, kind of sad music, but it is much richer than that. In fact, between different areas of the country, there's even different variations with different techniques, different specs and instruments, and even very often completely different vibes. So while this pseudo documentary of mine isn't really going to showcase all the differences between all the different fado genres, and I'm not really going to be playing fado in the traditional sense, I hope that this is maybe a way to introduce some of you guys who never heard of this genre of music to go do some research not only on the artists that we're going to be talking about, but even some different artists, and who knows, even other Portuguese genres of music. So after a second listen, I kind of got the structure a little bit better. The B section is a little bit more epic, and in the main section there's this part where the melody goes, and then after that the melody repeats, but the bass note slash chord progression kind of changes a little bit. Overall first listen vibes, I think it's doable. I don't think it's a hard song to figure out. Like I mentioned before, I'm not sure how I'm going to do my arrangement, but at this point I kind of just want to get the song down properly. Really make sure I get the song in my head, because like I mentioned, I know the main melody, I know the main vibe. The B section, not so much, but it's not really complicated. I just really need to listen to it and get it in me.
That's what she said!
I started recording this section around 1:30 p.m. and it's now 2. I've heard the song a little bit, and now it's a matter of keeping up at it. I'm gonna go have some lunch, maybe listen to the song again, this time without the guitar on me. I'll return when I have an update. Alright, so it's currently like 11:30. I ended up not being able to play much throughout the afternoon. I mean, I did, but I was teaching, so it wasn't exactly the best time to get some chops down. You actually gotta focus on your student. And then I got home around 8, did some chores, had some dinner, had to upload all the videos about this guitar, which took me longer than I expected because I could only upload 15 videos at a time to YouTube, and I ended up having like 56 or 57 videos in total. In the meantime, I did some thumbnails and was listening to the song. I also listened to it while I was driving and throughout the afternoon. And now I was thinking of playing without the song, just trying to capture some of the vibes of the song. Again, G minor. If you've seen some of my other videos, the key of G minor always reminds me of Still Loving You by the Scorpions. But I should probably try and focus on the greenest years that one could ever possibly experience. Surely that will make it more inspiring. But yeah, to be honest, shorter vlog than I was expecting. Just too much of a busy day today. I'm sure the video and audio quality isn't the best either, but I'm just going to be playing the same guitar through the Quad Cortex, through the effects return of my Katana 100. I'm fortunate to have a studio space where I can still be somewhat loud throughout the night, so let's try and jam a little bit and see where we end up. I'm struggling with some of the shapes. Like there's this section where we go from like C7 or G minor 6 to like an E flat chord, and I keep going for this shape here. Then I can then change to a C minor because the bass note switches to C. Okay. And I guess I should probably go for this shape here. And I'd stay much closer to all the other shapes, but I still don't have the muscle memory to do that. But I think that's probably something that I should focus on. Obviously, the song is played on a Portuguese guitar, which is at least a somewhat different instrument. There's a lot of like heavier vibratos, like when they go for the melody. And they go straight away for it with most of the notes. Like, I try to hold on to the note a little bit before I engage the vibrato, almost like a singer does. But the tradition of fado music isn't really like that. And sometimes these chord changes aren't the same twice, so I kind of have to memorize the form of it. That was actually sounding pretty cool there, to do the melody in lower notes. Like, I'm already playing everything an octave lower than it is in the original. Technically, I should be playing it down here. And before some of you ask, no, I'm not going to play this with a clean tone. I mean, I can, but it just doesn't speak to me as much. I mean, when I do play with the clean tone, it's very much just for the, like, the funky stuff. Or that, like, hyper clean with, like, maybe a chorus on it. Just a cast away. If we go back to our other preset, yeah, I much prefer to play it like this, where I get a little bit more of a crunch on it. If I want to clean it down, I can. But yeah, I like to dig in a little bit more when I need to. So yeah, I think we're at an interesting spot where I can just do like intro and section A, where it's still the intro basically at this point, but just not as soft. Then section B, we go back to section A and perhaps we do a little bit of a solo on it. Section B and we do a little bit of a solo on it. Then we go back to section A and maybe we do it a little bit more chill, like maybe just with the lower notes. We can do something interesting with section B, since the chords in there are much more straightforward. It's E flat, F, and G minor. Maybe we could try and do the melody of the B section, but with the chords of the A section, which are a little bit more interesting. lie, before this, I listened to the song, but before that, I was listening to this version of Black Hole Sun, played by Yannick Wisdala and some other amazing musicians. And because that song is also in G minor, Black Hole Sun, won't you come, wash away the rain, Black Hole Sun. I'm missing a chord there, but it's also in the key of G, has some similar chords. I think I'm getting somewhat influenced by both, which on one hand is kind of interesting because I can do like all the effects of Black Hole Sun if I want to, and we can make it a little bit of a mashup, like Black Hole Sun meets Verdes, and get some like Leslie speaking and chorus sounds. Fun, to be honest, but I don't think it's appropriate for this song. At least not in this way. But yeah, who knows? There's a lot of different options for this. And again, we can also get like maybe heavier with the delay and reverb. This is being fun, honestly, just playing around. If you've been following the channel, I've been doing a lot of editing for the past couple of months, so it's fun to be a little bit more free of just editing videos and doing all of that boring work and just have some fun playing. Let's leave you with some encouraging notes. I funked that last chord. I wanted to do a C13, not C, sorry, G. Ended up doing a, fancy, G minor major 7 with a 6 on it. Definitely not the flavor I was looking for, but it's a cool sound. Very like melodic minor sort of a sound. Alright, enough playing for today. I've been here for 29 minutes at this point, so it's basically midnight now. And yeah, even though I don't really care about like if it's midnight and technically we're at the next day, for me the next day counts after I awaken after being asleep. So yeah, right now, today is tomorrow, but it is still today. And like with most days, I'm going to go to sleep tomorrow and wake up tomorrow, rather than going to sleep today and waking up tomorrow. I think that was enough of a recap. I'm figuring the song out. I think we can do this in 9 days and not have this shitty of an audio and image quality. So I'll see you tomorrow for day 2. And I'm going to have a very busy day, so this might be the only time I have to practice. Tempo is just a frame of mind. If I knew the song better, I kind of have to figure out a way to make sure that I play it. Mentioning as well that this is one of those songs that no matter how much you work on, breathe like he did. Some of the bass changes that I was doing last night were not quite right. Probably go balls to the wall. Right, hello everyone. So it's day 2. Hopefully now there's a better video and audio quality. It's around 1 p.m. I was busy teaching throughout the day and had to keep working on some videos that are going to be coming out around this time. By the time you're watching these videos, they've probably all come out, but you can go check them out again. They're all about this guitar. And I'm going to have a very busy day today because I'm going to be teaching from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Then after 8 p.m. I have a meeting with a friend who I haven't seen for like forever because we don't work in the same town and I'm very busy and he's very busy with his own things. So this might be the only time I have to practice for today. So I think we should probably go balls to the wall and just get the song playing and just play along with it and see where we end up. Because like, let's be honest, at this point, I kind of know the vibes of the song, but that doesn't mean that I can play it following the structure, not making any mistakes, and keeping the timing right. Mentioning as well that this is one of those songs that no matter how much you work on, the timing is always going to be different from person to person, from player to player, because it is played in a very organic way. It's not metronomed at all. It's not really that strict when it comes to timing, so it means that you really have to listen to the song if you're playing along with it, or if you're playing it with another player. But if I'm making my own arrangement of it, then I kind of have to figure out a way to make sure that I play it and it doesn't feel stiff, doesn't feel robotic if I then end up recording it at like a specific tempo. Now, one thing that is often talked about Carlos Paredes, other than his note choices and his compositions and his just like flair when playing, is his timing. I've mentioned it during the vlog, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys have heard like some sort of solo player doing their own arrangement and being a little bit more free with time, right? Like in some ways, tempo is just a frame of mind. But if there's one thing that other players talked about Carlos Paredes, probably unanimously, is that he kind of had his own definition of tempo and pacing. There are all sorts of players, Portuguese and non-Portuguese players, like Charlie Hayden is an example of a renowned musician who would not only comment on Carlos Paredes' just natural proficiency at the instrument and his own special flair and taste.
Someone had told me about Carlos Paredes, this great guitarist, Portuguese guitarist. They wanted me to meet him, and he was playing at the Jazz Hot Club.
Oh, yeah.
And I went with some friends to the Hot Club and met Carlos Paredes and asked him if I could sit in with him. And we played all night. It was really wonderful.
Played then?
Yeah. And I knew then that I somehow had to do something in a great musical setting with this guy because he was a genius.
But in general, between colleagues, contemporaries, and other musicians, they would often mention that when playing along to Carlos, they would kinda need to, quote-unquote, breathe like he did. How fast and slow some of the turnarounds were, how much tempo would fluctuate. Sometimes it didn't really make sense for the people accompanying him, unless they would really lock in with Carlos and try to not only understand where he was coming from, but truly lock in. The version that I based myself on for this arrangement and I kinda listened to on YouTube is probably one of the most straight out of all the versions that you can find online. Like, yeah, it had some speed downs and some slow ups, but in general, you can pretty easily follow it. But if you listen to some of the movie versions, those ones are way more crazy. Very often, Carlos would be accompanied by Fernando Alvim, another Portuguese guitar player, in this case like regular classical guitar, even though more in the fado genre and more traditional genres rather than like classical guitar itself. And in the same way that people would compliment Carlos's more free time and kind of wild spirit way to approach tempo, which to be honest, I would guess probably comes to him very naturally and wasn't anything like super forced. They would also compliment Fernando Alvim to be kind of like the only guy guy who would be able to lock in that easily with him. I'm sure it's probably one of those things where one hand washes the other, and Fernando Alvim probably influenced Carlos's timing a little bit, and vice versa, and they would easily lock in with each other probably because they would play so often together. But even then, compared to some other fado arrangements, where people will often tell you that it's not exactly the type of genre that people would dance to, some players would be harder for audiences to lock in with when it came to rhythm and tempo, and Carlos Paredes is one of those examples. But yeah, while there's still some time, let's play along with it and see how it goes. Alright, so first go through the song. I noticed that some of the bass changes that I was doing last night were not quite right, so now I think I got them better. But yeah, I need to work on the melody a little bit more, so I think this time, probably instead of trying to do already the arrangement with the chords and the melody, I'll just do the melody and get the melody straight in my head. a little bit more confident in the melody this time. There are still some like little variations that I think because I kind of know the song, I don't really do the same way he does. Like, I kind of expect the melody to go this way, and I kind of do it my own specific way. On some ways, I kind of feel like if I knew the song better, like if I listened to it a bunch more times, which I will, you know, it's only the second day of trying to work on this song, I'd probably hear these slight melody changes and little variations as it goes. It is pretty straight, like, it's not like he does too many little variations, but yeah, just the fact that it's a Portuguese guitar, and I kind of get influenced by the sound of Portuguese guitar, and I end up trying to do it the same way, rather than, you know, doing it as like an electrical guitar player would. Like the vibratos are different, even the string tension is different, all those things. But yeah, now talking about the composer himself, Carlos Paredes, I kind of feel like we have to talk a little bit about his dad too, because Carlos Paredes is the son of Artur Paredes, who was also a renowned Portuguese guitar player, but his father and the father of his father were also renowned musicians. So we're talking about a whole lineage of musicians who are not only known for being extremely good musicians and popular musicians, well, popular might be a peculiar word, but we'll get to it, but also extremely influential culturally and musically. Before, I talked a little bit about fado music and how different areas of the country have their own little vibes and inspirations with different techniques and flavors. Well, I live in the more central area of Portugal, and I'm close to Coimbra, which is, who would have known where the fado of Coimbra is from. And Artur Paredes, back in like the 1920s, was already renowned for not only having a beautiful and renowned style, and people felt like, while with other players, you could go look back for previous recordings and previous artists and be like, oh yeah, this guitar player was influenced by this artist or this artist. People didn't really feel that way about Artur Paredes. And not only did he change the way that music was made, with vibes, no choices, and other techniques, but also with instrument craft and instrument making. You guys might know that I'm involved and work with a bunch of luthiers, and help set up this like luthier show where all sorts of luthiers who make all sorts of instruments can come and present their work. And even nowadays, a lot of the way that Portuguese guitars are made stem back to the 1920s because of Artur Paredes was like, yeah, I want an instrument that allows me to like tune lower. I want an instrument that allows me to have a bigger, more full sound and more aggressive sound. The instruments that are being built right now, they don't really accommodate what I want to do. So he went to instrument makers and was like, please make me something that achieves what I want to do. And back then, instrument makers didn't really work like that, in the way that their instruments were supposed to be made, according to tradition and technique. It wasn't really part of the culture to make something new for a player because the player has different needs. But even then, after trying a bunch of these things, the luthier started noticing like, oh, this actually makes sense. The scale length is now more in tune with itself. Or maybe the neck width allows us to play different chords and chord shapes. I don't play the Portuguese guitar because I didn't really have that much contact with it growing up. And while it is just a stringed instrument, which I can technically play, because it is tuned in fifths and the regular guitar is tuned in fourths, I kind of have to readjust my brain often, so I wouldn't really call myself a Portuguese guitar player, but it's a beautiful sounding instrument, a lot more trebly, a lot more attacky. It's kind of like a 12-string guitar where all the strings are doubled, which gives a little bit of a more attacky, metallic-y, trebly sound, which kind of has this like symbolical connotation and similarities with crying. And while there's a bunch of stories that I can tell you about Artur Paredes and then later his son Carlos Paredes, and how their stories and careers kind of influenced each other, I'm just going to give you like this brief statement, which you can then research later. And like I said before, I might be somewhat wrong about all of this, but like I watched a couple of documentaries and did some research, so I think I'm not going to say anything completely wrong about it. So Carlos Paredes, the son of Artur Paredes, born around the 1920s, when his dad's career really started to pick up. He started learning how to play the Portuguese guitar along with his dad around the age of like 4 to 6 years old, and while his mom kind of wanted him to learn how to play the violin or the piano, he kind of didn't really enjoy it that much, so he just stayed with the guitar. He quickly started developing his own sound, which was of course influenced by the previous iterations of Portuguese guitar, especially in the more Coimbra tradition of fado music, but both him and his dad would take influences from more regional types of music, more folk types of music, and even try to apply some of the stylistic things about different styles of fado. Carlos played with his dad, Artur, for a bunch of years, but they kind of had to go their separate ways, not only for stylistic reasons and competitive reasons. Like there's even this somewhat fun story told by the son of the luthier who used to build the guitars for Carlos's dad, Artur, in which they were building him a new guitar and they were working heavily on it, but then some sort of accident went on and the top of the guitar cracked or got busted or something like that. And so the luthier was like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Arthur, I'll just build you a new guitar from scratch. And his son Carlos was like, hey, I kind of want a new guitar as well, so like, why not use the scraps and just put a new top on it and I'll take the old one. And while Artur ended up having a brand new guitar that was also built specifically for his needs, legend says that he was kind of pissed and salty about it, not only because he was like, damn, that guitar was supposed to be for me, but also because in some ways he was like, yeah, sure, he's my son, but like, do your own thing. It's like, stop coming after me and trying to impose yourself on me. Like those sorts of things that can happen when there's two very explosive and fiery, creative and artistic minds going on. Both of them kind of knew what they wanted to do with their own music. And I feel like it's also important to mention that both Artur and Carlos, because, you know, Portugal didn't really have a lot of infrastructure or support to artists and art, both him and his dad had other jobs other than being musicians. Artur used to work at a bank, and Carlos used to work at a hospital in the more administrative services. So no matter how culturally relevant or not, technically, they had their own jobs, and while they had passion for playing music, Carlos himself used to say that his engagement with people at work and people who would come into the hospital really fueled him into creating songs and compositions, and it was part of the way it sparked his creativity. Carlos, of course, influenced by his dad as well, kinda started distinguishing himself because he was a bit more reckless, he was a bit more modern and trying to do different things, while Artur, while still being a complete powerhouse that is considered very innovative until this day, and even back then, somehow was a little bit more traditional in his approach, or at least the sort of sounds and songs he would make, while Carlos ventured a little bit more off into different things.
Isto foi caro, com certeza.
Now, Artur ended up dying at around 80 years old in 1980, and like 24 years later, Carlos Perez ended up dying as well at 79 years old from some sort of nervous system problem. But even to this day, their legacy is not only enormous, and their influence among players is absolutely undeniable. With all this commentary, I only really scratched the surfaces of their lives. Like, I haven't even talked about how Carlos was like this guy who was very sure of his skills and his work, but at the same time, he was his biggest critic. The sort of dude that would be chilling and would have a gig and be surprised that people would show up. They would tell stories of like, here's our entertainer for the night, Carlos Paredes, and then he wouldn't come into the stage. He was just chilling backstage because it was cool in there and he was catching a breeze. He really was the sort of artist that would do his art for the sake of art making, for the sake of self-expression, and wanting to do what he was good at and what he wanted to do all his life, not really worried about what other people thought of his music or if his songs would be commercially viable, because when they used to ask him like, is your music popular music or more niche music? And he would give answers like, well, in some ways it's niche, but in some ways it's popular, but it's kind of neither, and I kind of like don't give a fuck. I just do my music the way I want to do it. And I think that's something that all artists should aspire to do, regardless of them being born in the 1920s or maybe the 2020s. In case I wasn't obvious enough with the rest of the documentary, I'm not really a connoisseur or like a deep, knowledgeable fan of Carlos Paredes and his life and work, but he's definitely someone that I have a huge amount of respect towards, not only as a fellow Portuguese and fellow musician, and in some ways fellow guitar player, but also as someone whose music I listen to and I kind of feel like I connect with, I kind of feel like I vibe with. Sure, we all enjoy all sorts of music and artists, but I feel like when we listen to someone who kind of has sensibilities that are similar to ours, we kind of lock in a little bit harder, we kind of feel a heavier connection, and I will often hear him play these licks and phrases, and sometimes even different ways to like structure chords and do chord inversions, not even mentioning compositions in general, and just feel like somehow I relate to it, you know? So while I'm not here trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm like #1 fan of Carlos Paredes, not even close, I am someone who was aware of his work, and throughout this experience learned even more about it and became not only a bigger fan of his work and then big admirer in his influence and in some ways his dad's influence as well, not only when it comes to Portuguese culture and history in general, but also in the center area of Portugal where I happen to be involved in, and I hope he has been resting in peace, and if for some reason anyone from his management team or family ends up seeing this, I leave here vows of respect, and hopefully even if this video just reaches one person who ends up watching this whole thing and being any bit more aware of this important figure in our culture anywhere worldwide. I mean, that's kind of the reason why I do these videos in English, so that I can share my work, and in this case other people's work as well, throughout the whole world in a more universally accepted language. If there's at least one person that enjoys this, then I think we've probably done something nice. I think we have time for like one more playthrough, so let's try it out and see how it goes. And then I'll try to play it by myself without the song. Or maybe I'll try to play it one more time with the song and try to do it. Who knows? We'll see. One thing that I haven't yet tried out is to do the lower version. That's clearly a part I have to work on because, again, I am playing it on a 7-string guitar. It is the sort of thing that I just enjoy to do nowadays. So I want to employ that 7-string guitarness to it. In my opinion, I think it sounds kind of cool, especially if I do it right. So let's try and play it maybe one more time, this time trying to do the lower end version of it. And then maybe we play it one more time, just me solo, trying to figure out whatever I can by myself. And we finish off for today because I still have to go and have lunch and then go to work. Alright, I think I'm a little bit more confident in playing this song now. Not the lower inversion section. I'm going to tune my guitar back to standard because this is just terrible. At least now I know I'm in tune with myself. Because I kind of feel like in the recording, the Portuguese guitar is slightly out of tune, which is normal. I mean, it's 2 strings playing at the same time, so it's kind of like the 12-string effect. But even then, it's beautifully out of tune, don't get me wrong. And I could be going for a tone that's like more drenched in reverb to help out the vibes and feeling more inspired. But at this time, I don't really want to do that. I kind of want to just play by myself and feel where the vibes are going to take me and really notice if I make a mistake, where the mistake is, and not be all epic and vibey swimming in reverb. Even though in some ways it is that effect of like when you play a wrong note, it feels like the delay just goes on longer than it usually does with the right notes. But even then. Okay, so that's... Okay, so I have to go... If I want to do this in time, I kind of have to do... Okay, makes sense. Kind of don't like this voicing if I'm doing my own arrangement of it. Maybe I can do... What arrangement? Maybe like this. I can just not play the flat 5, that is an option. Yeah, so... Yeah, I forgot. It's only one time that it does the full descent. Alright, that was actually kind of cool. I found out that I always like to do these like chromatic runs that just keep descending. So I think we started, we're in G. Alright, now I'm literally out of time. I have like 10 minutes to have some sort of lunch and go to school. I think we've made some improvement. I kind of feel like I just need to like practice this hard. So like when I get home later on today, I think I might not vlog much. If I don't come home too tired, I'll just try and like watch some YouTube videos or a show or whatever and try to just practice this and get some muscle memory down and try and work on it as much as I can. But yeah, I think it's doable. I think there's some cool ideas here. I'm still not quite sure how I'm going to do the arrangement of it, but yeah, we'll figure it out along the way. Thank you for watching so far. I really appreciate you guys watching this video and supporting the show. And yeah, I hope it's been somewhat entertaining. So yeah. See you later. Don't judge me. I know you guys are going to judge me like that. It's around 7 a.m. Probably going to be out for like most of the day. So worst case scenario, this is not really the greatest update possible. This series has not been going on like I would like it to. I want to stop and make sure I get it. If I fail at getting the song right and getting the vibe right, I'm sure this is going to sound pretentious, but hear me out. Wouldn't be good. Don't come at me. This is one of those situations where I can't play the song right. Alright. Alright, so this is not really the greatest update possible. This series has not been going on like I would like it to. I ended up coming home very late last night, like around 2 a.m. I went to bed around 3 because I had some other stuff to do. And yeah, now it's day 3. It's around 7 a.m. I ended up having some like family emergency stuff to work on today. Nothing like bad or crazy, just unexpected. And I'm probably going to be out for like most of the day, so I wanted to get up a little bit earlier so I can still practice the song a little bit. And since I don't have a lot of time, honestly, I think probably the best thing that I can do is like just get the song on and just jam onto it. Worst case scenario, if I fail at getting the song right and getting the vibe right, at least I can actively listen to it and try to get like maybe bit by bit. Also, this is no warm-up on my guitar playing, nothing at all. Ah. Alright, so I'm not sure if I got this yesterday when I was practicing before lunch, but there's a bass note that I'm not quite getting here, and I want to stop and make sure I get it. Okay, it's a little bit before that. Okay. Okay, is that a flat 9? Alright. Didn't catch that the first time, so. Alright, so it's actually interesting. It's almost like a tritone substitution. I'm not sure if that's how they were thinking of it, but yeah, there's a section there where we move. Da 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 da. Alright, and don't judge my singing, okay? Don't judge my singing. It's early in the morning. I still have somewhat of a, like, lower morning voice, okay? So don't come at me. It's just a way for me to guide myself, okay? Don't judge me. I know you guys are gonna judge me like that. Don't judge me like that. So now I think maybe if I put on the song, I can accompany it. Alright, see, this is what I was talking about before. Yesterday it was more about jamming, getting my fingers in the right place.
That's what she said.
This time it's about actually getting some of those chord shapes right, getting some of those bass notes right, and I guess the fact that I'm kind of running low on time doesn't help too much. But, like I said, these things matter. I actually figured out some, like, good improvements. And like I mentioned, this is one of those situations where probably since, like, yesterday, or even maybe the day before, but probably yesterday, I'm confident enough with my own ability, and I'm sure this is going to sound pretentious, but hear me out. I can't play the song right. But if I had to play the song right now for an audience, I could hack my way through it. It wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be faithful to the song. It wouldn't be respectful towards the composer's rendition. But I could hack my way through it. There's some little bits there that I still can't quite do, like... that moving from... It's not quite easy, and I'm using the open string, which for me feels like a cheat. Let me know if you guys feel like this too. When there's a song that you can do with open strings, you should use those open strings, right? But my brain doesn't work like that. My brain is much more like, imagine you weren't playing it in G, you were maybe playing it in B flat, and there's no open strings in B flat, so you have to go... See, that's where I went. I was relying on the open string, and when I had to go there back to the B flat, I wasn't prepared, and that's what I feel like, especially coming from like the background of playing in a bunch of rock bands over the years, and cover bands, and wedding bands. Sometimes the singer just ain't feeling good, and you kind of have to drop the key or raise the key sometimes. And when that is so, sometimes it's not in a good key for a guitar, like you're using open chords or whatever, and I always had to figure it out. And I think that's how I learned most of my caged shapes. Like if I was playing a D chord like this, and the singer was like, hey, can you drop that half a step? But nowadays, you can grab your quad cortex or your Digitech drop and just drop it digitally and play half a step down even though your guitar is tuned. And I don't think you should do that. If you want to do something like that, or even maybe... you kind of have to figure your way out around it, right? And I think that's where most of my chord vocabulary came from. And that B section... See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm at that point where I can probably figure out my way around the song and I can bullshit my way through, especially if I'm like playing solo. I dictate when the tempo is, well, when the beat is and what the tempo is, that more accurately saying. Because I can just delay things if I feel like I'm going too fast. I can always play the song a bit slower. And I don't think that's quite exactly what I want to do, because that feels a little bit lame. It's probably like my last resource. Like, if I end up not having enough time to practice this, or I get to a point where I'm not feeling crazy about my arrangement of the song, I can just probably just bullshit my way around it like that, and just do that arrangement. See, that's where I went. I was too fast there. I should probably go a bit slower. Not only for practicing, but if I was going to bullshit my way around it, which I think is how I'm envisioning it right now. What if I had to bullshit the theme? That's probably going to be the title of this portion. Yeah, that sounds cool to do the little... See there, I fucked up the chords. Ah, see that's what I'm talking about. I'm also uninspired and unrushed. But see that I screwed up that section because I kept repeating this diatonic drop. Instead of doing the one time just straight diatonic drop, then going just to the B flat and to the A minor 7 flat 5. That's still a thing that I'm failing at. And I actually watched this video recently, and I mentioned it in the first day update of Yannick Gwizdala. He was playing with these other crazy musicians for a video where they were covering, in their own style, Black Hole Sun. They were covering Soundgarden, and there was a point in there where, not sure if it happens in the video or if it happens in the Yannick Gwizdala podcast where he reacted to the whole experience, where he was mentioning that the piano player, there was this section before the chorus that he would always forget to play, right? And sometimes musicians have different character flaws and different skill issues. And in the case of that one musician, who's clearly a great, awesome musician, better than I am, even a well-rounded musician sometimes has these character flaws. And sometimes, in my case, I struggle with memorizing certain parts according to my own muscle memory. Because I've been adapting these own chord positions and chord shapes and bass notes to my own playing, sometimes I get this muscle memory from other things that I've done before, which if you want to be loyal to the original version, it's not really right? And I remember in Yannick's video, he was telling the piano player, like, man, listen, at this point, you just gotta notate that shit down and write it on paper so you never forget about it, or you're looking at it as it happens. You can't just forget about it. We're ruining takes. We're losing time, right? And I think it's probably the same thing here. If I was going to play this live right now, I'd probably take a piece of paper with me, probably with just like an asterisk and be like, don't forget about the fucking A minor 7 flat 5, something stupid like that. Or even maybe, don't forget the B flat, you dumbass. It would be probably good enough for me to remember, and maybe even having the little paper on the floor that says that, just that paper existing would probably make me remember. Now, since I don't have to play the song right now for a live audience, I'll probably just keep practicing it, and I'll probably remember it as time goes, and I'll probably be better at it as the time goes. And not forgetting about that section and that variation and doing it myself as it should be just ends up being muscle memory, which is hopefully what you want. But yeah, gotta go. I'll try to do a little bit of another update later today if I can, depending on what time I get back. But yeah, I actually got more than 20 minutes done, but yeah, I'm late and I still haven't had breakfast, so I gotta go. I did indeed come back and practice the song a lot. In fact, I just grabbed some YouTube videos and I even filmed some of it, but it kind of just ends up as a time lapse. There's not anything super interesting going on, unless you want to see me playing and practicing the song while reacting to some sort of Iron Mouse video, which, who knows, maybe one day it can be some sort of like OnlyFans exclusive content. There was a lot of prosecution and censorship. The point of this series is not to talk or analyze the movie, but I think there are some important pieces of information here that are pretty relevant. I'll just be practicing. Still during a period of dictatorship during Portugal. While a bit weird even for today's standards, probably until I get like ultimately bored, you don't even need to break down the two riffs in order to associate those feelings, at the same time being very disrespectful. Alright, so at this point I got home early from teaching. It's probably around like 5:45, and it's summertime, so it's very hot outside here in Portugal. But yeah, I'm just outside with the guitar, and I think I'll just be practicing outside for a while, probably until I get like ultimately bored of being out here. I kind of want to get some practice done where I have no distractions, no computers, no phones, and I get to be out just chilling and getting the song down, and maybe even try to think of the style of arrangement that I want to be doing and probably start working on throughout the weekend. The point of this series is not to talk or analyze the movie, but I think there are some important pieces of information here that are pretty relevant. The movie Os Verdes, aka The Green Years, was a movie that was made around 1962 by a director called Paulo Rocha, released in 1963, which was still during a period of dictatorship during Portugal. In fact, it only ended around 1974. So while there was a lot of prosecution and censorship, not only when it came to the arts like music, movies, books, paintings, drawings, theater, whatever, people also weren't allowed to just talk about certain things, not only out in the streets, but also in the privacy of their own homes, because if someone knew about it, well, you'd probably be arrested, at least. And this movie, while a bit weird even for today's standards, it is one of those movies that is still timeless. Like, if you'd watch it today, the themes of migrating from a simpler life to a more busy city life, where there's all sorts of dark things waiting for you around the corner, but it is also the land of opportunity, hasn't stopped being relevant at all. And even the way that the main couple within the movie interacts really felt personal for someone in the dating scene in 2025, when the movie was released in 1963. Bits and pieces of political commentary hidden within the fabric dynamic of the story so that the government wouldn't go after the filmmakers. And while back in 1963, most people felt like it was a departure from regular cinema, at least Portuguese cinema, which doesn't really have a super rich history in the sense that we were a country with not a lot of resources, and people always struggled to find work in the cultural sector, it was for sure impactful and started this movement of a new age of cinema within Portugal. Obviously inspired from other film movements in other countries, but that's not really important. What is important though, for the sake of this documentary, is the music of the movie, because not only did it play a big part in the reception of the movie and in establishing that new movement for cinema, it was also that movie that spawned the song that we're going to be covering. Like I mentioned, the movie is called The Green Years and the song is called Green Years. And the term itself, Green Years, while I think is mostly understandable for other cultures as well, for a little bit of context, here in Portugal, the word for the color green is one of the words that we also use for a fruit that isn't ripe yet. So we say that fruit or vegetable is still green. So I think you can understand how the green years take you back for your early years of adulthood, where you're almost at that stage of full development, but you still have so much to experience, and it is those years that are very formative, not only for how your personality and life end up developing as, but they are usually those years where you get to truly experience something new, which is shown not only in the movie throughout the plot of the movie and some of the scenery and imagery, but also through the music. The composer of the movie, Mr. Carlos Paredes, or again, I feel always awful by saying this, but Carlos Paredes, or Carlos Paredes, I guess, a already renowned Portuguese guitar player, even by back then standards, did an amazing job of portraying those feelings of your years of coming into terms of who you are and who you want to be in one way throughout the whole score and throughout the whole song Green Years. But while the song kind of just has two riffs, you don't even need to break down the two riffs in order to associate those feelings, especially after having watched the movie. Some of these interesting chord changes and chord progressions with hints of darkness and hope in there not only really match the feeling of those years, but it completely matches the vibe. Like, I'll just give you an example. I knew the song before having watched the movie, but while watching the movie, especially in the first sections, it just felt like your traditional old school Portuguese movie, which I know is really not saying a lot and at the same time being very disrespectful, but trust me, this is going somewhere. The movie just had a traditional Portuguese movie vibe, and while the fado music makes sense within the context of a Portuguese movie, I would sometimes hear some chords and interesting changes throughout the movie, mostly because sometimes things were a little bit too dark and feel like it didn't really match the vibe of the movie, or like the vibe of the characters, or the vibe of the scene. But then as the movie progresses, especially when you get to the end of the movie, all those chords completely settle into place. They all make all the amount of sense. While I mentioned before that the director Paulo Rocha was inspired to talk about themes like migrating to bigger cities and the consequences that that has on your personality and in your development, and even how it might change your character as a person. Here's the pseudo spoiler for the movie. The director was also inspired to make this movie from a real life story of a real life crime of this shoemaker who killed his girlfriend. Now that's a piece of information that I did not know before I watched the movie, and I feel really glad that I didn't know that piece of information, because I feel like it wouldn't have ruined the movie for me, but it would have given me a different perspective as time goes on. And while I'm a big movie fan, and especially a big movie score and movie soundtrack fan, I don't feel like I can express with just words how on the nose everything is, not only probably in the way how the filmmaker communicated with the music maker or the composer, and be like, this is the vibe, please try to capture it somehow in your own vibe, because I hired you is because I like the music you make. And they really hit the mark. Like, trust me, they really hit the mark. Portugal isn't the best country at taking care of its culture, so it's not exactly that easy to find a movie, but I could hypothetically tell you that if you hypothetically went to the world's most used search engine, and if you looked for Os Verdes, and maybe you went to the video section and scrolled down a little bit, maybe you could find it online in a pseudo-illegal or not illegal way, but that's just a hypothetical on my end. Like I said, the movie is in Portuguese, and it's not easy to find like subtitles for it, but I'm sure that like AI might be able to do it or something like that. But trust me, I feel like you might really enjoy the experience, and even if you don't enjoy the movie, I feel like you might relate to how I feel about how well the imagery in the movie connects with the music itself, and it just lock in not only in themes, but vibes and the way it makes you feel. Alright, so I think I'm gonna stop for today. It's around 8:30, so I've been here for a couple of hours, and I'm getting swarmed by flies at this point, which is probably the main reason why I'm stopping, because it's getting annoying. Can't say I'm bored at this point, but I'm getting a bit bored. So I kept working on the song. I think I'm feeling more confident about playing it. Not like I wasn't confident about playing it before, but I'm much more confident playing it now. Worked on just regular chord shapes, trying to figure out some extra variations. Some extra chords, worked on the part with the lower inversion chords. And I think that I'm getting better at that. The tinier bits too. So yeah, the song still isn't perfect, but I'm feeling better about it. I really like this song. I think I've mentioned it before, but it's a song that I relate to when it comes to the playing style, the riffs, the melodies, the chord changes. It's a bit epic, a bit medieval-like-ish, a bit jazzy too. Has some interesting chord changes. If anything, I should probably try and get some more of the articulations of the Portuguese guitar, like some of the pull-offs, rather than doing like slides, because on the guitar the frets are further apart than they are on the Portuguese guitar. Alright, so I'm editing the video, and I thought that I'd leave this part in. Some of you might think it's boring, and I would understand why, because it's just me playing some random stuff, but I think it's funny because you can see exactly the moment where my brain kind of clicks in and gets an idea. And well, if you keep watching the other days of this vlog, then you might see how it actually ended up being something very interesting. Gonna stop for today and go upload some thumbnails and some of the videos that are being released about this guitar, which I'm still not finished on. I might practice some more today, or I might just chill for the rest of the day because it's been a long day. Thank you for being here. It was cool, had fun, song's getting better. It's not perfect and it's not completely accurate. There are some things that I want to try out. My pseudo score on the screen, I'm not sure if I'm gonna have any time to work on this. Maybe reflect a little bit more of my style. Establish a structure, but also try to experiment and do some interesting things. At any point right now I can just have to finish this video and leave. Alright everyone, so it's day 5 at this point. My nose is a bit stuffy. It usually happens when I'm not sleeping a lot, but I'm feeling mostly fine. I'm not going to be having as much time as I'd like to practice today. Just like on Thursday, there's been some family stuff going on, so I might be out for most of the day. And because I'm literally on a running ticking clock at this point, like at any point right now I can just have to finish this video and leave. I think that maybe what we should do is to establish a structure. Since we have an A section and we have a B section, and I've mentioned that I want to be faithful to the original version, but also try to experiment and do some interesting things that maybe reflect a little bit more of my style, since, you know, this is going to be my version, and you always gotta start somewhere. In this case, before we get to instrumentation and orchestration, I kind of feel like there are some things that I want to try out. Like, for instance, the song starts out straight up with the melody, and as we go from that little pickup, the chords then come in as well, the A section. And I'm thinking that I might want to try some comping instead. Probably going to try and do the chords and melody at the same time. And maybe repeat that like once or twice to then move up to the B section. I'll treat that like the chorus. When we then repeat the A section again, something like that, and then even maybe do like, I think I mentioned it in the first day or maybe the second day, we can do some chromatic bits. Something like that, and nothing crazy. Try the B section again, but with the lower inversions. And then, just because, and I think this is where we get even more unfaithful to the original version, when we end the lower inversion of the A section, maybe do a key change. Or even maybe change the whole vibe a bit. Like, throughout yesterday, I experimented with doing it in like a waltz sort of a vibe. I think it's because having it in G minor and having it be very minor chord centric, I think gives me the vibes of Merry Go Round from Howl's Moving Castle. Like maybe doing not quite sure yet. But I think that's going to be our structure. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have any time to work on this later on today. But even if so, just for me, mentally, having a structure in mind, having an idea, actually helps a lot, because I can then just transcribe this, get some sort of a demo going so I can practice along with it, really get the vibes going, and rather than just practice the song over and over again, I can actually try and practice my version over and over again. But yeah, coincidentally, I gotta go. So yeah, if you've watched this far, thank you so much. Your support actually really means a lot, and I hope you've been enjoying this show so far. Bye. Alright, so I just got home. It's around 8:40 p.m. and right now I'm about to go and notate the song and try and figure out at least like a semi-arrangement of it. Like, I don't think I'm going to follow this like note per note necessarily, but just to have like a little bit of a backdrop so I then can like look at the notes and then arrange other instruments to it. So I think that's probably going to be the idea for now. I'll update you guys when I'm done with the arrangement. I don't think it's gonna take a long time. Alright, so not a lot of time went by. I'm guessing like an hour 30, something around there. And mostly because I got distracted and started procrastinating and checking things on my phone, as one does. And I'll leave my pseudo score on the screen. Like I mentioned, it's not perfect and it's not completely accurate. It's mostly for me to have an idea of something I can practice along to. In some ways, it's pretty much just what I mentioned I'd be doing before, which is like part A, part B, probably just by myself, and then part A and part B again. probably with something extra added to it, either some orchestration or just the way I play it might be slightly different. We go to section B again, we maybe do section A with the lower inversion chords, and then we do a tempo change, which in some ways, I'm not exactly thinking of it as a tempo change, but more like a metric modulation along with a key change. And then to kind of finalize it, we do this super chromatic descending part that I told you about. Since I'm doing this late at night, it's not practical for me to plug my guitar in, but I think you might get a vibe of what we're going for. I'll try to play along with it. I won't promise that I can already play it, but it will surely give you a vibe. Alright, so in case you didn't notice, I can't really play that quite right, at least for now. But like I said, this is not really like exactly how it's going to be, it's just a guide. I changed the fingering,
That's what she said.
for this section here, to start with G, go to the 6 with the flat 7, then land on the 5 chord. And then the super chromatic part, kind of the same melody, vibe-ish, we're starting on the same chord. Yeah, I can play that right yet. And I think that's probably the overall vibe for now. It's getting kind of late, I'm kind of tired and hungry, and I'll leave for tomorrow to either try to record sections of this to get a better guide and figure out how I actually want to get this settled down when it comes to the notes, or I'll just take tomorrow to just practice it while I'm at home. I guess only tomorrow can tell. But yeah, overall I'm feeling pretty confident. Other than that last part, which is kind of complicated, I think we're pretty much doing fine. I don't think I'm doing anything that's super crazy to play. and that will end up biting me in the ass. But yeah, with that being said, let's maybe stop for today. Thank you for watching so far if you've watched so far. I'm kind of sick. Record a couple of guitar takes of this. I'm not even gonna try and redo some of these takes better. Wet, dry, wet situation here. Actually figure out how to play most of these riffs. I forgot that I'm doing something different. I'm gonna have to try and do it to get a little bit of a more quacky sound. Let's see where this goes. Alright, so it's around 6 p.m. I wanted to start recording this sooner, but I'm having a bit of a summer cold / allergy season thing. And I also had, again, some family stuff to take care of in the morning. But for now, what I want to do is I exported the little arrangement prototype thingy that I showed you from yesterday. And I imported it into Studio One right here. And I plugged in my quad cortex to it. I'm using like a little bit of a wet, dry, wet situation here in stereo. I'm not going to explain this preset rig thingy because I intend to do it on a different video, so be tuned for that. And what I want to do today is to record like a couple of guitar takes of this, just to have an idea of how it sounds and actually figure out like how to play most of these riffs, figure out some positions and stuff like that, especially for the latter part of the song, and have a little bit of a demo to work with so I can practice along with it and be even more prepared to play it on the 28th, especially because after I have like a solid guitar take going on, I can then start worrying on whether I'm going to add other stuff to it or if I'm going to just do it as a solo guitar piece, which at this point I'm still not sure about. I think it's probably one of those things where I'm going to have to try and do it, and only after listening back to it can I make my final decision. So I thought I'd show you guys how the recording process goes. Again, it's nothing very crazy here. I'm not playing super loud either. I'm just listening back to my computer speakers. I'm trying to do a screen recording here, which hopefully will go smoothly. It's not a hard song, so I think I can probably record this pretty quickly, which makes sense because I kind of want to rest a little bit for today since it's Sunday and I'm kind of sick. So yeah, let's try and figure it out. My guitar is in tune, or at least it was before, so I'm going to assume it still is in tune, and let's see where this goes. My nose started to itch like crazy in there, so we're gonna do another run of this last section here. I forgot that I'm doing something different in this section. Now that I think about it, I think I might use the middle position with both pickups on to get a little bit of a more quacky sound. Okay, I fucked up that last section. Let's just repeat that previous section before. Alright, so there's a little thing there that I want to change. Alright, so there we go. I'm not even gonna try and redo some of these takes better, because like I mentioned, the idea for now is that I will listen to this throughout the day and throughout my activities and try to practice along with this so I have the arrangement down and practice. This is no longer one of those things where you're just playing for the sake of playing. I can do the whole thing by myself, like I can do the... But this is what ends up happening. I then get slightly confused and I start jamming and improvising, and this way I just stay truthful to what the vibe of the thing is, and I end up actually practicing that thing as it should be. Let's maybe try and play along with it just for the fun of it, I guess. I forgot we start in G minor. You really can tell I'm sick. and this is one of those situations where I changed it as we were recording it, and now listening back to it feels a little bit too repetitive. On the listen back to it, I don't think it makes the song way more repetitive than it already is. It turned out way longer than the original song is, like almost double the size of the original song, but I think that's probably fine, right? Like we give it a different spin. The chromatic part is the one I kind of have to figure out, but it's mostly up for it. There is one thing I think we should change. The last B section. What if we do... And there we go. Now, when I go to practice, which, like I mentioned before, it might not be today. It's going to be, according to this, try to get the vibe of it. I'm somewhat confident about the arrangement. I think it might be a little bit long, but since I was told specifically, I might have to stretch the song a little bit and play a couple more repetitions if required. I think the arrangement is kind of neat like this. Thank you for putting up with sick me. I hope I was any bit coherent. Listen, I kind of want to mention that even though, like, looking at the video now, I don't look that sick nor sound that sick, I had to cut off a bunch of different takes that were ruined because I sneezed or I started coughing and I ruined the take. Trust me, I really was struggling to make that video, and even though I kind of spent like, I don't know, 45 minutes to record that whole track, that day it felt like an eternity for me, especially considering that I could feel myself not having the proper takes, like I wasn't playing as good as I would usually do, which kind of sucked, but in some ways it kind of is just like how these things work, you know? Like sometimes you just want to work and you're sick and you can't. Like that just adds the realism of how these 10 days actually work, like how chaotic they work. And yeah, if you're watching so far, thank you again for all the support, and I really enjoy and appreciate that you were here and be awarded with great performances, playing insights, and everything music related. See you tomorrow. If this doesn't go to show that sometimes you're just too tired and suck too much ass, then I don't know what does. I'm not the best at memorizing little variations, because otherwise I'm gonna go insane. Just for the funsies, I already know there are some things that I'm going to just straight away fail at. I'm not quite sure of which notes to use. I'm not really feeling super confident about playing. This is an obvious example of what I like to call the autopilot syndrome. I can't even let that one go, bro. I gotta try that one again. Okay, so I was out teaching for the morning and now I'm home for lunch, so I'm going to be practicing the song. I'm feeling quite better than I was yesterday, but I'm still feeling a bit tired. My intention was to work on the arrangement today and figure out some orchestration and other instruments for it, but I feel like I really gotta practice the song because I'm not really feeling super confident about playing the whole arrangement the whole way through. I now have the time to play the song once, so I'm gonna do that, and I'll go teach throughout the afternoon, and when I get home, I'll go back to just practicing the song. I think for right now, I'll try to play both at the same time and give you guys a bit of a performance and see where we are at and what we can try to work on. I already know there are some things that I'm going to just straight away fail at, but yeah, let's try and figure this out. Ah. Alright, so overall, honestly, not as bad as I thought it would go. I kind of fucked it up mostly at the end, which, what a surprise. It's the one part that I changed from the original, so the one part I had practiced the least. But hey, for someone who was sick yesterday and didn't really practice as much as he should have, I don't think it's that bad. I'm gonna go have lunch, cheat, and then when I come back, I'm going to practice this hard, give you guys a little bit of an update on the things that I think I should work on. Alright, I'm now home from work. It's around 8:30 p.m. I'm outside again with the guitar, and I want to be practicing with no distractions. It's slightly cooler inside, but I know if I go inside, I'll just be on the computer, and I'll get a bunch of distractions, and I want to get this song right, because I actually have a time frame, specifically, of when I have to play it, so I want to make sure I got this right. I'll try to just practice along with it, not a lot of distractions. I'll film a time-lapse or something of my practicing. Right now, I want to focus not only on getting the structure and all the different variations I made right, but I also want to work on things that I'm still struggling with, like the chromatic descending part. I'm not quite sure of which notes to use. I want to get that right. And I also want to be working on like the lower inversion section of the main riff of the song. So yeah, I guess be on the lookout for that. And yeah, I'll update you when I have more things going on. Alright, so a bit of an impromptu lighting situation, because it turned out way darker, way sooner than I was expecting. The clouds are very gray and dark today, so I'm guessing it might be a rainy summer night for today. I'm still gonna stay out here practicing because it's just chill and there are not a lot of flies or mosquitoes right now. Probably I'm attracting them with this bright flashing light, but yeah, I guess that's part of the deal. So far, I'm getting more and more confident about playing it. I figured out the chromatic section. I know what to play now. I just gotta get good at it. There's just a couple of little details that I'm not quite sure if I'm going to just play exactly as they are on the arrangement, or if I'm going to play it my way. I'll probably just play it my way. Because, you know, when you're actually playing it rather than practicing, probably more inspired to do different things. I tried to focus mostly on, like, the lower inversion section. That was something I needed to work on. Especially the second lower inversion section in the last chorus. I just need to be focused. Being tired from being sick and it being so late in the day, I don't have as much energy as I would appreciate, but yeah, I'm still gonna keep up at it for a little bit more. But yeah, I'm back inside, plugged into the noise machine, and I am going to try and play this one more time because it's getting late. I kind of want to have some dinner and do something with the rest of my day that isn't just working, because otherwise I'm gonna go insane. And it also serves as a little bit of a reality check for me at this point, because I think I'm getting this pretty well under my fingers, but like it's a different experience to just practice it and to actually play along with the track. So let's see how we go. And yeah. What? Just went back to the beginning, okay? keep forgetting about this section. Honestly, not too bad. Was expecting worse. Overall, have to work on the lower inversion section. Some of the timings, of course, because I kind of did the little time signatures and retardandos and variations as I was feeling them when I wrote the arrangement and was playing it first. So if I'm going to follow this verbatim, which again, I'm still not sure if I'm gonna, it's gonna make me have to memorize all those different little passages, variations and stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not the best at memorizing little variations and stuff. I still have a little bit of time, I guess, and I'm not that tired even if I am tired, so I'm going to play it one more time just for the funsies, then we'll quit it for today. Gee, I can't even. I can't even let that one go, bro. I gotta try that one again. Well, if this doesn't go to show that sometimes you're just too tired and suck too much ass, then I don't know what does. This is an obvious example of what I like to call the autopilot syndrome. I played it the first time, I was conscious, I was feeling the vibes, and I was paying attention to the tune, the melody, the form, and for the most part, I did pretty okay. I don't think it was perfect, flawless, or even a version that I would record and just settle with. But if I'm being straight with you guys, if for some reason they changed the date and I had to play it tomorrow, and the first version was what turned out, I'd be pretty okay with it. And I think that left me with a little bit of false security, which led me to relax too much on the second version and not really pay attention nor focus on it, which made me just fuck up completely from beginning to end. Because it's how I usually say, like, my students will know this because I've mentioned it plenty of times. Sometimes we get way overconfident, we enter autopilot mode, and we fuck up things that honestly we are pretty much able to play, even if not in the most relaxed, out of character state, because we're just somewhere else with our minds. So if for some reason you didn't believe me, now you do. And while in a perfectly male autism way, I would go the gaming route and be like, we can't stop on a loss, right? We gotta end the night on a win. I don't think I'm gonna do another take of this song. I know I got what it takes to do it. I'm probably just way too tired and way too much out of focus to do this right now, and it's also pretty late, but I think we're doing alright. So yeah, now for sure, thank you to all of you guys who watched so far. I hope this was somewhat entertaining. You guys are usually so supportive, even right now as I'm doing these videos and I'm editing other ones and publishing other ones. You guys are being always very supportive, and I really can't thank you guys enough. So yeah, I can only hope to see you in another video, but yeah, anywho, I'm gonna stop this because I'm just rambling at this point. My computer just can't handle it. I'm getting really tired. I then kind of exploded much more onto here. Not only do I not have the patience right now to feel a little bit more disconnected and not so rhythmically tight, I also don't have the full amount of time to do it. Shouldn't I be giving the people what they want? Kinda crazy and almost chaotic, but I think it works. But yeah, I just can't manage it anymore. And I'm going to try and do something with it. I knew I wanted to break people's expectations a little bit. I'm not going to tell you that I don't care, but I don't care enough. So it's day 8 today. I've been thinking about how I should do the arrangement, and while I think it would be cool to just play it by myself, I kind of think I should probably try and do it somewhat in Brad Baker demo style. Because if you think about it, when I was hired to play this gig, on one hand because I am a guitar player in the district, but also because she knows my work and she selected me and my project before, so I think she might be expecting me to play the song in a way that is kind of like the things that I usually do. And while if I just play it for myself, I don't think I'd be doing a disservice to that expectation. It also kind of gives me that feeling of, shouldn't I be giving the people what they want? So I think I'm gonna try and orchestrate something, but I'll probably just leave it towards the end of the song so that maybe people listen to the first part of the arrangement and they then assume it's going to be pretty faithful to the original, and I then surprise them with something else. So I loaded in my Brad Baker Demos preset into Studio One, and I'm going to try and do something with it. It's around 4:30 p.m. and I'm done teaching for today, so hopefully I'll get a couple of hours into this under my belt, but even then we'll see, because I might have to leave tonight for the professional reasons, but we'll talk about those later. So yeah, I'm gonna go work on the orchestration process. Probably not as much in a rock context like multiple guitars and heavy drums and heavy bass, but definitely something with a little bit more texture. I'm not going to record the whole thing. I'll probably just do something and then show you what I made, because otherwise I think I'm just going to take way longer to do something if I'm not focused 100% on it. So yeah, I think I'll stop for right now, but I'll definitely give you an update later. Alright, so a couple of hours have went by, and I kind of loaded in my usual Brad Baker Demos preset. It has a bunch of my orchestral sounds and synth sounds, and I thought it would be cool to not start straight away with the orchestral things, so I started basically after the first chorus section, the first B section. If we go back here... And that's when the orchestral stuff kicks in. As you can see here in this later section, I then kind of exploded much more onto here. To be honest, I'm just programming and typing this in with mouse and keyboard. I don't have a MIDI keyboard, so I don't program with a MIDI keyboard. And I'm kind of used to it and to the workflow of it. I kind of just like to audiate sections. And as I do, I just program them in and put them in. I don't think I can like fully play everything that's going on, plus recording the screen for you guys. My computer just can't handle it. So I guess I'll just bring you through the thought process a little bit. We're doing most of like straight up orchestra stuff. Right now, I'm not worried too much about like the type of orchestration and instrumentation, just trying to get cool sounds, especially because for the type of gig that this is and the type of environment that we're playing at. I don't think it's going to be super important to do this properly and by the book. And if I release this later on, it's going to be a cover. It's not going to be an original song. So I'm not going to tell you that I don't care, but I don't care enough to like get actual players to play these things and make sheet music with all the proper instruments. Not only do I not have the patience right now, I also don't have the full amount of time to do it. So this section here, which is the first repetition of the A theme, because I am playing it in a lower octave than the original version is, I thought it would be cool to add a little bit of extra sparkle with some woodwinds playing, mostly just the chords that we're playing over, occupying a little bit of the more higher pitch areas here. Some fun bits here and there, like this section here. I thought I'd do a little bit of pseudo-chromatic harmony with some contrary motion by having one side of the spectrum going down and the other side of the spectrum going up. And there are some crunchier chords here, like this pseudo D7 flat 9 chord. Meanwhile, as we're doing that, we have these pizzicato strings, just adding a little bit of like rhythmical texture. And for that first repetition, I have the more sustained sounding strings, just doing a little bit of accompaniment, mostly hitting chord tones, not exactly melodies, just adding a little bit of support, because right now I just want you to get the flavor of something that's adding to the original melody, instead of it being overpowering, and now we're just focusing on the orchestral parts. If I play the whole thing with all the strings and all the woodwinds, this is what we get. And here we enter with the verse. Alright, and then here in this section, because it's where the guitar goes up an octave, I maybe could switch up to having the woodwinds doing the lower parts instead. And again, I kind of just copy pasted whatever the strings were doing in the previous part. It just adds a different texture than having the strings doing it. And instead of the pizzicato strings doing the more rhythmical parts, I have shorter woodwinds doing that same section. Again, just copy paste it because we don't have enough time to just fully develop new things over and over again. And when it comes to the strings, I decided to have a couple of melodies going on at the same time. So there's always this one melody that's just kind of like quarter notes going the whole way through. Sometimes they get a little bit shorter so that you kind of have a little bit of a different vibe. And then you have another melody that kind of follows this pattern of like a half note and then 2 eighth notes, and then maybe a quarter note and 2 16th notes. It kind of repeats that pattern as we go, but it depends. Like in here, there's a little bit of a different variation. I kind of just went by ear of things that I felt like sounded cool. And since the lower woodwind parts are kind of like straightforward, they're mostly like just half note or sometimes quarter note patterns, and with the shorter, it's always that like very ostinato-ish, very rhythmical pattern. I thought it would be cooler for the strings to feel a little bit more disconnected and not so rhythmically tight. So if we then combine all the instruments we have laying around, we'll end up with something like this. Obviously, just having the guitars along with it is going to sound completely different. Again, I'll just play a little bit, but I know it's going to crash sooner or later. Then when we get to section B, I knew I wanted to break people's expectations a little bit, because you might guess that I'm just going to explode into the new section and have a full orchestra going on, but not quite yet. The big staccato string is something like this, kind of just like arpeggios, trying to again give it a little bit of a more rhythmical ostinato-ish section. There's a little synth that I have going on. It sounds kind of like piano-ish, a lot of reverb and spacey vibes, kind of just repeating the same note over and over again. And meanwhile, because again I didn't want it to fully explode yet, and I wanted to keep it a little bit esoterical, I have the woodwinds doing something that's more trebly stuff. The strings are doing pretty much the same thing, but since with the strings you kind of get a little bit of like an extra juice, it almost acts as a little bit of a thickening agent, and we get progressively bigger as the arrangement goes on, but again, not trying to go too over the top. I also have these like Easter Island percussion parts, just again to add a little bit of extra weight to the main hits. Pretty low in the mix too. But in the overall spectrum, I think it makes a difference. And while originally I kind of just wanted to subvert the audience's expectations by, instead of having like a chill part with one of the melodies, but playing it higher up with some more delicate chords, that it would be cool to just play it with like these lower inversion, semi-distorted chords. While I still think it would sound cool, because there's already a section where I'm just playing by myself, maybe this is where we should go like epic sounding, you know? Usually when we do, the main melody ends up being higher in pitch, very high and rich melody that everyone can connect with, so why not do something different? As I'm recording this video, there's this like remix of a song called Trap Queen by Fetty Wap. I obviously have no idea who that is. But it's been popular on like Instagram Reels and TikTok, and it mixes this like very hip-hop-ish sounding song, very contemporary, with a not so contemporary drop, I guess. In some ways it is through the orchestration. It sounds very Hans Zimmer-like. You can think like Interstellar or Inception. It's like that kind of a vibe. And while I never heard the song, the truth is that that arrangement actually sounded pretty cool, and it's been in my head for a couple of weeks now. It was pretty trendy, now it's dying off, and I thought it would be cool to do something like that with this section here. Again, I can't play you the whole thing because my computer is going to fry itself, but I can show you the individual parts. So like when it comes to percussion bits, we have some gongs and cymbals here. Nothing like very high in the mix, just to help us transition. The Easter Island things, nothing really crazy at all. I have some more cymbals here from Easy Drummer. They're just from the Progressive Rock pack, nothing fancy at all. And I have this bit of like XXL percussion that just adds, again, a little bit of a more rhythmical quality to it. And that's pretty much all we have when it comes to percussion. Again, I didn't want it to be like full-on rock drumming style. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to do something different. And since this song was also made for a movie originally, I kind of didn't want it to have like full rock band vibes. When it comes to strings, again, nothing really fancy either. I decided to go for a more pattern-based pseudo arpeggio, pseudo scalar run, pseudo ostinato. Sounds kind of like this. If we keep up with the more rhythmical parts, the woodwinds, there's this section here that accompanies the string part. While the string part is more all over the place, this one kind of has like a more directional thing going on, like up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, you know, that sort of vibe. If we combine it with the strings, it sounds something like this. Kinda crazy and almost chaotic, but I think it works. Along with it, we have the strings that were in some ways they were kind of like occupying a lower space. In here, there's slightly more higher pitch, and again, they're pretty stacked up. Not really worrying about specific orchestrations for now. Like I mentioned before, just going for sounds that kind of feel cool. And along with it, we have the woodwinds doing pretty much just the same thing as the strings are, but just lower. Which sounds a little bit more chaotic to have the woodwinds doing the lower parts, but I honestly kind of enjoy it. We're usually used to listening to like the strings with cellos and contrabasses doing the whole like lower thickening up thing, and for multiple reasons. Of course, the main one being that it sounds really cool, but I kind of wanted to experiment with something different, and I've done this in other Brad Baker demo songs of kind of switching up the roles of each instrument family and just giving it a completely different vibe. Sounds like this if we put both of them at the same time. And because you can have an epic orchestral arrangement without having like these brass instrument parts doing some like superhero epic actiony vibes, I have a couple of things that are gonna have like very low brass notes that are purposely low in the mix. You kind of don't really notice them. And then these little counter melodies. I usually wouldn't arrange this like this. I would have like a lot of different instruments doing all of these. But again, like I mentioned, because we're running low on time, I just ended up leaving it like this. And to add to the volume of it, I have this synth that is pretty much just doing the same thing, but like an octave higher. It sounds kind of spitty, which I appreciate. And if we play both the synth and the brass, if you listen to them at the same time, it just becomes a little bit different. Here's it without the synths. And now with the synths. Call me biased, but I think that sounds pretty cool. And there are so many cool combinations going on, like if I just play brass parts but with rhythmical woodwinds and strings going on, it becomes a little bit more high energy. If we take the more staccato woodwinds and strings, but instead with the more pad-based stuff, I obviously could have gone harder with like more synth stuff, but because we're running low on time and we still have like plenty more of the song to do, I thought I'd just end it like this, and of course the whole like percussion part of it. And we come to the waltzy section, which I kind of have to work on, and I feel like it's going to be the one that might give me a little bit more trouble. Again, like I mentioned before, waltzy vibes, G minor vibes, even though here I kind of transposed it up to be in like G sharp minor or A flat minor. I can say that I'm not being somewhat inspired by Howl's Moving Castle, so I kind of want to get inspired by that vibey orchestration and instrumentation part of it, where there's a lot of counter melodies, a lot of different stuff going on, and it's not like action movie cinema part like this. And yeah, we'll figure it out along the way. I started recording this like an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, after recording the first section, but I'll just be honest with you guys, part of it I was on my phone and was distracted, and there's not really any automation in this. None of this is really any fancy or any like amazing piece of art, like orchestration work. This is not my proudest moment, but for just like a couple of hours in, and for a gig that's probably not going to be paid, I don't feel too bad by not going 100% on this, not gonna lie. And when it comes to these things, I kind of feel like this is one of those situations where I'm always going to feel like I could have done better. And even if I do something that I just think is absolutely flawless, probably like next week or like a year from now or 10 years from now, I'm going to look back at it and be like, yeah, I could have probably done better. So while I love the original song and I would like to try my best to just do the best rendition and most honorable version of it, right now in this headspace and with this challenge, I am kind of just trying to do the best that I have the patience and energy to do right now. I'm going to try and work on the waltzy section now. I'll come back to you guys when there's an update. Alright, so I kept working on the arrangement, but it's really late and I'm getting really tired. I've actually worked a ton around the arrangement and I've tried a bunch of different things to see how much they work or don't. Mostly to try to achieve the sound and vibe that I'm looking for. But yeah, I just can't manage it anymore. It was a long day of teaching and working here, so I really have to stop it for today, but I'll try to do it tomorrow as well because we're running out of days and I still want to make sure that I get this right. I do some pseudo mixing to it, and most importantly, I practice the guitar parts along with this arrangement so that I can connect things together, because there are some things that I had to change about the original guitar parts to accommodate for the orchestral bits, so gotta practice that as well. As usual, again, thank you for all of your help. I hope you've been enjoying the whole process and sharing of it. At least it's not completely awful. I am kind of in the nick of time. I think it gives it a little bit of a more fairy tale-ish whimsical vibe. In some ways, it is a little bit of a subversion of expectations, not being able to focus on anything anymore. I found this like endangered beetle a bit chaotic for some of you, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit chaotic. It doesn't yet sound exactly as I'd like it to, which would be a great idea if it wasn't already like 10:30 p.m. at this point. And a more faithful experience to the Carlos Verdes experience, I guess. They actually only play in between the real melody. I'm not going to not tell you that I kind of feel a little bit uneasy about all of this. These past couple of days have just been quite chaotic. I finished yesterday's vlog at like 5 a.m. just being like super tired and not being able to focus on anything anymore. I'm still not completely done on the arrangement, but I want to finish it today, which would be a great idea if it wasn't already like 10:30 p.m. at this point. I went to sleep so late yesterday that I kind of just wanted to sleep in a little bit, but even then I had some students around 11, so I didn't really sleep much. I took a little bit of a nap around lunchtime, and then from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. I went to the local school where I teach at and was just teaching and stuck there until like 8:30 p.m. And when I got home, I couldn't exactly come to just work on this straight away because I found this like endangered beetle, and I care about conservationism and I love wildlife, so I just kind of wanted to help the little fella, which alongside cooking dinner and working on some other professional stuff, it made it so that I only got to come back to the arrangement now at 10:30 p.m. In a perfect world scenario, I would show you what I did yesterday that I ended up not showing you guys, but at this point I kind of feel like it's better if I just grind at it for a couple more hours and then just show everything to you once I'm actually done, because at this point we're at the end of the arrangement. I just need to figure out some extra parts and figure out what some of the instruments are going to be doing, and while I already have the like more mystical fairy tale-ish waltzy vibe going on, it doesn't yet sound exactly as I'd like it to, but I think I have some ideas on how to correct that. And I'm not gonna lie, I am kind of in the nick of time, because even if I do end up finishing the whole thing today and do some just like basic mixing in order to play it on Saturday, I'll only have like a couple of hours tomorrow to really practice it on guitar. And while I don't think it's going to be like the biggest deal, because I kind of know what I need to play and I am kind of comfortable with the arrangement I did, I'm not going to not tell you that I kind of feel a little bit uneasy about all of this. But yeah, in some ways, I guess enough update for now. Let me just go and figure it out and I'll come back to you guys later. Alright everyone, so it's around 4 a.m. and I'm pretty much done with this. Even though I was pretty close to the end in the first place, it actually took me a while to do this because I was just so tired that I had to like work a little bit, do a little bit of a break, work another bit, and then do a little bit of a break. The session is a little bit different than last time because I added another track of strings just to do the melodies and another track of woodwinds just to do the melodies as well. They're mostly the same, but they kind of harmonize with each other here and there. We're actually making use of like the more shorter staccato-ish horn/brass section, and we're using both synth at the same time. Less percussion because we're doing the little waltzy section. If we start with the percussion itself, the same good old Easter Island percussion pack that we were doing before, just setting in the downbeat. Along with it, in the part where there are chord changes, we have the gongs and cymbals. If we keep up with the more rhythmical stuff, I have this synth just doing in octaves these little like triad arpeggio sections. I think it gives it a little bit of a more fairy tale-ish whimsical vibe. We have the brass horn section that is, instead of accentuating the downbeats, it's accentuating the other triplets. If I put back the Easter Island downbeat, and along with it also in the downbeats, we have this like lower orchestral just in octaves doing like the lower roots of the chords. just helps us feel this waltzy vibe that we added to this riff. And since I wanted to do that whole like Howl's Moving Castle, super mega fairy tale-ish, magic-y, dreamish, super waltzy vibe, I have some short staccato strings doing again the root of each chord, but then doing like these more crazy runs. They pretty much always follow this pattern of like spaced out notes and then some faster parts. More spaced out notes, faster parts. I'm doing something similar with the short woodwinds over here. We're kind of doing the opposite pattern though. We're actually starting with the more faster runs and then doing the more spaced out notes, again with different variations in the rhythm. These ones actually sound kind of like this. Sounds interesting to hear both of them at the same time, because if you think about it, they end up blending and meshing together nicely because now they complement each other instead of just harmonizing with each other in the same tempos. Here's both of them at the same time. A bit chaotic for some of you, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit chaotic, but if we put it with something a bit more stable, with the orchestral bass going on and the percussion parts, it ends up sounding way richer. Yeah, you get the vibe there with the more rhythmical section. Like I told you before, I added these strings. I then repeated it on the woodwinds, just an octave higher. Kind of harmonize with each other a little bit. And then, as a little bit of a counter melody, that's where I added the more like melody, heroic brass section along with the synth, just like last time. Again, the synth, I think, just add a little bit of an interesting texture. And if I put it along with just the regular melody played by the strings and the woodwinds, you can actually see that while the blue and yellow, aka the synths and the horns are happening, they actually only play in between the real melody, which you can see here in red and purple, to again give you that feeling of call and response, main melody and counter melody. And that's pretty much everything that I added here, not including the more pad-like string section, which sounds something like this. Along with it, there are again some woodwinds. And they blend pretty well together. I think it's good enough to give you an update. Now, some of you with wide eyes might be looking at the screen and be like, he only showed like a portion of his arrangement. What about the super chromatic part? What about like some of the other B sections? And you're right, because in some ways, I kind of want to leave you guys hanging. And I kind of want you guys to listen to the whole song whenever we get to that section and still be somewhat surprised with what I ended up doing. Like if I just show you every single thing that I did, then where's the surprise when you listen to the whole version? Like I mentioned before, I'm pretty much done for today. I'll do the rest tomorrow and I'll give you guys some updates. I'm going to go and try and rest because tomorrow I still have a bunch of things to do besides this whole project, and I gotta practice it and make sure it's right so I can then do the whole thing on Saturday and not make a fool out of myself. Now, one thing that I was a bit conflicted by when it came to this whole arrangement, I mentioned to you before about Carlos Paredes having a very signature time and how it was very much free flow, but free flow in a way that only Carlos could really understand. And I thought of doing that myself. I thought of implementing that into my own arrangement, and I thought it would be faithful to the vibe of Carlos. But since we're doing this in 10 days and I can't really hire these these players to go play with me and record them in the day, I kind of have to be locked in into a time grid and able to program everything and give people that experience of listening in orchestra along with my version of Verdes, which already happened in other circumstances. Like there are orchestral versions of Verdes that have been made throughout the years. There have been plenty of people doing their own versions and covers, as we've established before. And so while I think it would be a more accurate experience and a more faithful experience to the Carlos Paredes experience, I guess. I don't even know how many times I said the word experience then, since it is a little bit of a technical difficulty that we'd have in order to just have me playing it free flow. Like, of course, I can then like reprogram a whole orchestration afterwards and having it lock in with whatever tempo I'm feeling. That doesn't really work live. And yeah, I'm only playing it live for one group of people once. But even then, I kind of want people to experience to what I was able to do in 10 days. Not like serve them something and then for you guys or for like a release, do something different. Like maybe one day I can do a different version, but for right now, I think I'll probably just have to like stick to a tempo and lock in. And while I guess, yeah, maybe it's not faithful to the Carlos Paredes experience, in some ways, it is a little bit of a subversion of expectations. Like with all due respect, most covers are going to try to go for that, right? Maybe this way I'm trying to do something different and hopefully I can still capture the essence of that song in there. Like yeah, in some ways, it is a very modern version, anything but fado, no Portuguese guitar on it, and well, I'm sure that if I wasn't locked into just having 10 days, I could probably do something different that maybe I would be more or less proud of than what I'm doing right now. I still feel like what I'm doing is cool and is worth the time, and while I'm definitely not sure if Carlos Paredes the man would actually appreciate me doing a version of his song than doing it like this, in this style, with all these sorts of characteristics in it, on one hand, I kinda don't care about it. I'm just doing it because I feel like it's cool, and it's in my intention to be respectful to the original composer. So if I have that in mind and I try my best and then the composer didn't enjoy it, then it's his problem, right? But I kind of wish that if Carlos Paredes was able to listen to it, that he would at least approve of it. Like maybe he wouldn't be like the hugest fan of it, but he would be like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. At least it's not completely awful. Or even if it is, at least maybe he wouldn't shame me for it. So yeah, if you stayed this far, I hope to see you tomorrow and have some interesting things to share. I've done some rough mixing. It really doesn't sound good at all. But I also need to figure out some technical stuff. Like for instance, there's not going to be any PAs. I want them to be able to have like a good listening experience. I'm not going to be using it because it sucks ass. It sounds really, really bad. Kind of sounds like an airplane engine is gonna go off. How am I going to hear the backing track for the rest of the arrangement? I'm gonna be honest, I don't really trust this janky setup too much. I have a problem going on. Super chaotic and stressful. Gonna have to figure out another solution. Alright everyone, so last day, I've done some rough mixing just to have an idea of what I should practice with, and that's what I'm probably going to try and do for like the perceivable hours. But I also need to figure out some technical stuff, like for instance, there's not going to be any PAs on this gig, so I'm just going to bring my amplifier. Forgive me for the whole mess, because I'm kind of putting a pedal board together and I still don't have all the parts, so everything's just laying out here. But recently I've been using the Quad Cortex along with a Boss Katana 2x12, so it's 100 watts. Usually just plug in the Quad Cortex into the effects return of it. It doesn't really sound as good as like the effects return of a tube amp, but it's good enough. And while I do have the guitar sounds covered, I have a problem going on, which is even though I've got guitar sounds covered, which is probably the most important part, how am I going to hear the backing track for the rest of the arrangement? Now on one hand, the Katana down there does have like a headphone input socket, so I guess I can connect like my phone or my iPad to it and have the backing track coming out of there so that the people listening to the song can actually listen to the full orchestral stuff that we've been working on. I'm only going to be playing one song, so I want to be taking as least gear as possible. But even then, I kind of want to give everyone in the audience, even though they're there not really to listen to what I'm playing, but to go on and do their photo shoot marathon, I want them to be able to have like a good listening experience and not just get some rubbish audio going on. Okay, so update on the Katana situation. I'm not going to be using it to play the backing track because it sucks ass. It sounds really, really bad. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out another solution. On one hand, I kind of feel like I should have figured out this sooner, but I also wasn't completely sure if I was going to have any sort of PA going on, or even mixing desk. But since I'll be responsible for everything, I guess I gotta figure this one out. So, I'll try and work some things out and come back to you guys when I have an update. Okay, so I managed to figure something out. Went to go grab, like, this super old laptop. Kind of sounds like an airplane engine is gonna go off, and I think I'm gonna probably have to take studio speakers. They're pretty high power, so that's not going to be an issue, especially for the sort of environment that I'm going to be playing at, because I'm for sure not going to be using the Katana. The aux in is probably like just good enough for like a simple backing track, but like when you have like all sorts of like orchestra stuff in it, it really doesn't sound good at all. So I can't really depend on it, so I'll just be using this laptop instead. The good thing about it is that I'm going to be able to record the guitar track straight from my Quad Cortex rather than miking up the Katana, which was what I was going to originally do. I really got to make sure that all of this works tomorrow, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't really trust this janky setup too much. So yeah, I gotta get there early to make sure that everything is working properly. But other than that, I feel like it's probably going to be good enough, I would guess. I already have my guitar, and I'm going to just go over the track over and over again just to practice it for as long as I can muster, because I really want to get this down under my fingers. So yeah, super chaotic and stressful. Like, I literally had to dust off this computer off of my dad's old office, because otherwise I'd probably have to just play it solo or play it with shitty auto quality. But yeah, I didn't really think this through too much because I just assumed everything would work, and worst case scenario, I'll just be playing one song, so how hard can it be to figure something out? It's not like I don't want to vlog anymore, but I kind of have to practice this, so I'll come back to you guys with an update if I have any at any point. While I did have 10 calendar days to work on this, since I was working and had like all sorts of other things to do, in some ways it really wasn't 10 days now, were they? But even then, we made do with what we had, and I kind of think it was worth it, at least for the experience. And after editing all these episodes, because we still have the final one with the gig vlog, but that just feels different for me than these. It's fun to look back and see how many ideas I figured out like in the first playthrough that then ended up coming into the track. Like the waltzy section was in the first couple of days, the super chromatic section was also in the first couple of days. Some of the chord inversion and chord shapes, like, yeah, you know, I had 10 days. Surely the song will change every single day, but it was like the first time that I started figuring out the song, even though I did practice it and change things along the way, it's kind of like your first version is kind of the best version in some ways. Like, you hear that a lot with studio musicians. They will often like record the first take and be like, well, let me do another take. I think I can do something better. But then the producer will step in and be like, no, that first take was great. We're keeping it. Obviously, I'm not at that level for most days, but even then, you know, it's fun to see like things happening, because when you're doing your own songs, you kind of have like all the time in the world, most of the times, to arrange your songs the way you want to arrange them, and you can record them and re-record them how many times you want or need until it represents like what you actually want it to be. And yeah, like overall, I think that's pretty neat. Alright, so update on the last little bit of day 10. I was here practicing the song for like an hour and a half, maybe a little bit more. I wouldn't say I'm as ready as I thought I would be by this point, nor as confident on my abilities to just play it flawlessly as I would hope. But at the same time, I kind of don't want to just keep practicing, because on one hand it's going to get really late and I have to get up early in the morning to be there. I'm also gonna go pick up our cameraman to help me vlog the whole thing while I'm filming, and I still have to save all the files. I'm going to try and figure out a way to leave this laptop not clipping every time I record, because I know I'm not really hitting like the clipping marks when it comes to levels. It's just really this old laptop that can't handle everything. Gonna start packing up all the things for tomorrow so that in the morning I can just put everything in the car. I could put everything in the car right now, but honestly, it's not that much stuff. And other than that, if I'm going to give you a run through of everything that I should focus on or worry about tomorrow, other than getting everything set up, is that I mostly just need to be focused. There's not a lot of very complicated parts, but there's a couple where I have to be extra focused, and in general, I kind of have to be focused in order to hit all of those different time signatures, make sure I play all the little breaks and fills properly, and also be in the pocket. But most importantly, to try and give out a good performance, because hopefully, if I don't make too many mistakes, I'd hope that tomorrow's performance is going to be recorded and ends up being the take that gets released along with the orchestral stuff. And I think there's something to be said when it comes to the whole live performance thing. You get inspired by the people in the audience, you get inspired by the vibes of the place you're at, the type of sound and acoustics you're hearing, and surely that's going to impact my performance, and hopefully it's going to be a good performance. But all those things that are going to affect the performance are also going to be good things. Like, hopefully the sound isn't too bad, hopefully I can hear myself properly, hopefully nothing crashes either. And yeah, deep down I'd say I'm probably like a 7 out of 10 ready to play. I think hopefully I'll be able to give out a very cool performance that, you know, I'm going to remember for a long time. But yeah, enough vlogging for today. I'll see you tomorrow straight in the morning. It's actually a pretty fancy ass place, and I got some extra stuff here. He is our cameraman extraordinaire. I don't really get nervous before gigs, so I can't really say I'm nervous. I'm probably more nervous about today than any other gig I've played before. Technical difficulties. Give me 5 minutes and they're like, yeah, no, now.
You always should thank your moms for having useless stuff around the house.
Because it is at least somewhat important for you to care about your appearance. Very risky to do no sound check. We're a bit late. I couldn't be more out of focus. Good morning, everyone. It's around 8:20 a.m. and I packed all the gear last night. I just need to put it in the car. In some ways, we're taking more stuff than I would appreciate, but in some ways, we're just taking basically the same thing, just in a different way. Of course, there's the case for the 7-string guitar in there, and inside the case, there's all the cables I'm gonna need, because, you know, there aren't a lot of cables. And I got some extra stuff here. The laptop, an outlet, plugging in thingy, I don't know how you call this in English to be honest, and the studio speakers, which have a rating of like 50 watts if I'm not mistaken, which is not a lot, but I think it's probably more than necessary for this sort of environment. Also a black shirt over here, because it is at least somewhat important for you to care about your appearance. Not in like a fashion sense or anything like that, but because when it comes to vibes and aesthetics, you kind of want to think about that too. The black shirt is not too fancy, but it's also a bit formal, just like the music video for my song Harkening Back to Us, which kind of mimics this guitar, a mix of modern and traditional. The black shirt is a bit traditional, but at the same time, I am wearing these like more modern cargo pants. Not sure how great of an angle that was, but I'm sure you'll see more of me throughout the day. I'm going to go put everything in the car, have some breakfast, and go pick up our cameraman and follow from there. I don't really get nervous before gigs, so I can't really say I'm nervous, but if I were to describe it, I'm probably more nervous about today than any other gig I've played before. But considering what you've seen in the vlogs and all the problems we had to work through, plus my lack of time to prepare for this properly, I think it makes sense, right?
Now listen, I got it from inside the house, outside the studio, so you didn't really saw me pack the chair. And you're probably gonna start thinking, Mark, why are you gonna take a chair? First of all, because I feel like it's the environment where you don't play standing up all rockstar-like. I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense. I kind of want to guarantee I have a chair to sit on rather than just sitting on the floor or something. And I know some of you are gonna be asking, well, shouldn't the people who hired you get a chair for you? Well, hopefully, yeah, but because I'm not playing in a concert hall or anything like that, I'm playing in a museum. I'm not sure if they have chairs in the museum, or if the chairs aren't like office chairs that have the armrest that you then gotta sit awkwardly with the guitar on. So I'm gonna take a chair because I want to have a chair and I want to make sure I have a chair. And if you've seen my videos, you've probably seen this chair. It's a very cheap IKEA chair that I've used in pretty much every single video of Red Wicker Demos Volume 3. So there you go. It's part of my staff and road crew. It's a friend of the channel. And it actually happens to fit exactly within the dimensions of my trunk. And I know some of you are going to be asking too, hey Mark, wouldn't you have a sleeve for this laptop? Wouldn't you have like a backpack that you can throw it in? Probably, but I didn't think of that, and I don't have enough time to go look for one right now. And I'm sure there's a place in there where I can keep it stuck like neatly between like a shirt or some jacket or some bags or something like that. So I'm sure we're going to get there nicely. Like, hey, see? Garden pillow. You always should thank your moms for having useful stuff around the house. Laptop couldn't be more protected with rubber feet here and there. Pillow, chair. That shit ain't moving anywhere. Now, if you've seen the demo/review of my custom 7-string Quicksilver guitar, if you watched it the whole way through, you might have noticed me mentioning that the case is actually pretty small when considering the size of the guitar. And that's true, but even then, it doesn't fit in the trunk of my car. Now, if I am going to be fair and honest, with my hard cases for my Fender guitars, I'm not lying to you, they fit like by the millimeter on the front of the trunk here. Like if I try to put those cases in slightly sideways, it doesn't fit. It has to be literally like completely parallel to the trunk, completely horizontal, not vertical, otherwise it won't fit in. And I can only fit up to 2 in there. So with this case being a little bit bigger, what I've been doing with it is that I just throw it within the back seats, and I put the seat belts looped around the case so it doesn't wiggle around too much. And there you go. Everything packed in and tucked in nicely. The only thing that I'm missing is you guys. And our cameraman for the day, but we'll go get him after breakfast. I noticed now while driving that while I was packing everything, I left my backpack at home. And truth be told, I don't really need the backpack. I mean, it would be handy because I have a power bank in there, some extra like phone charging cables, stuff like that. I was intending on bringing it, I just kind of forgot. But hey, when was ever a man hindered by a lack of house keys, wallet, and other stuff like that?
There he is, our cameraman extraordinaire. Hi, David. How's it going? How's it going?
So we just got to the place. It's actually a pretty fancy ass place. Makes sense for a museum, I guess. Never heard of this place, and our cameraman here has never heard of it either. And we live pretty nearby, like 20 minutes away, half an hour away. Not even half an hour away. And we never heard of this place, but we're just in culture like that, so it's not really surprising. Even though I just told you earlier that it is kind of important to think about your looks and your appearance, I honestly didn't notice that I had a stain on my t-shirt, because if you look at the vlog earlier, when I was carrying the stuff, my t-shirt was clean. It happened during breakfast, and I honestly didn't notice it. If I did, I obviously wouldn't go into a professional setting with a huge stain on my t-shirt, but yeah. Even Ricardo, our cameraman, I was like, bro, why wouldn't you tell me about the t-shirt being stained? stained. And he was like, oh, I just assumed since you're gonna wear a shirt that you just brought a t-shirt that was kind of like already dirty, so like if you dirtied it up while carrying some gear and it got even more dusty or dirty, then it wouldn't really matter. And I was like, yeah, sure, I get that, but even then, it was a huge ass stain. So yeah, take my advice about caring about your appearance in a professional setting, but at the same time, don't take it from a dude who doesn't even notice stains from breakfast. We're gonna be loading all the stuff into the main hallway, and yeah, try to set up all the things as fast as possible, because we're not late, but I kind of feel like we're a bit late for all the setting up we're gonna be doing. Pronto, pode esperar. Okay there, I kind of have to step in here because as you just saw like the whole montage time lapse of me setting up everything, I was just going to show you the footage of me playing it live. I did set up two cameras, not only the one that you just saw, but also Ricardo, my cameraman, was standing in front of me with my phone, not only with a better mic so that I could have a different audio for me to blend in, but also to have a different camera angle, but we weren't expecting a couple of technical difficulties. Mainly this, which, like, don't photographers know to not step in front of the camera? Don't they deal with that every single day? But also, like, they knocked down my extra angle. Sure, it was a mistake, they did it because they didn't really notice, but, like, it fell, and when they put it back together, it's not even the same angle. Like, they didn't think to look to see if it was recording me, because, like, even if for some reason it wasn't my camera, it was a camera that, I don't know, someone in their organization team set up, and it was for some reason trying to record the people coming in through that angle, like, don't you think it would be important to record me as well? Like, you know, I have no fault with this dude, because he's a member of the team and they all treated me very nicely, but like I just completely lost all my footage basically. Yeah, I can blend some of the phone footage that Ricardo was doing while people are just crossing over the camera all the time, but yeah, that kind of ruined the experience a little bit. I thought of recording a pseudo music video playthrough like I did with Bread Baker demos, but I kind of feel like it doesn't really match the vibe. Like it's not going to feel like it belongs in a 10-day documentary experience, so I think I'm going to do something different, which hopefully you guys will appreciate and I think will be somewhat cool. So in a way, for us to still have an interesting video, here's what we're going to be doing. You're going to be listening to the final official take of the song, which has bits and pieces of our live recording that we did at the museum, and some other bits that I will explain later in the section that I recorded with Ricardo as kind of like a final chapter to this whole situation. So yeah, not exactly the idea that I had in mind, but I hope it works.
Alright, so. Agora tens de olhar para a câmera ali, não para a tua cara, porque senão vais ficar tipo. Google Eyes. Exactamente. So yeah, it's the final part of the last video we're going to be making. I'll probably do some other updates and side commentary because, we didn't talk much throughout the main video, at least for today, because, I was just very busy trying to set up everything, which, surprisingly, everything worked according to plan. Usually these things, they're, very risky to do, no sound check. I was glad I was able to check if the Quad Cortex interface was still saved on the laptop, which it was. I didn't have to, save anything new. We got here pretty early because Filipa, the promoter, was like, get there around 9:30, 9:45, and my thought process was like, okay, it's probably going to start at 10, but no one really starts at 10, but I think they started pretty close to 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember being like, okay, it's pretty chill, they haven't arrived yet.
Eu vou no sinal quando estivermos perguntar.
And then I was setting up all the stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, cool. I'm gonna go switch from my t-shirt to my shirt and do all the whole thing. And then they show up and they're like, yeah, so we're gonna bring the people in. I was like, what? Sure, give me 5 minutes. And they're like, yeah, no, now. And I was like, okay, sure. So I just rushed to go put on the shirt. And even then, Filipa was kind of like, where the fuck is he? Which, it's part of the ordeal, I guess. But, yeah.
Now, there's a little bit of a miscommunication here going on. And listen, I'll accept the blame because I was somewhat stressed trying to set up everything that I kind of didn't hear them right. Because after reviewing the footage, I kind of get what happened and how it was kind of my wrong. Because they were basically like, so can we get the people in? And I was like, oh yeah, you can get people into the entry hallway where people can get their tickets to the museum and stuff like that, because it wasn't as hot inside as it was outside. I thought that's what they meant, not can we get people coming in here, And when it was that moment oh yeah, we'll bring people in, and I was like, yeah, of course. I'm gonna be playing in this space, so people can be all around me. Yeah, that's fine for sure. And if people want to go up the stairs and wherever, that's fine too. That's the way I understood it. Looking back at the footage, I can understand how that's definitely not what they meant, but it's my problem. In the vlog with Ricardo, I'm like, yeah, how will this happen and whatever. I didn't have any time to set up everything. I'm sure that if I told them hey, listen, I need some extra 5 or 10 minutes, I would guess they would probably be in a time crunch of some sort, but they would probably accommodate it.
Oh, and also I think we should give a shout out to my Rui Silva guitar. In fact, it's right there. It's just laying there because it needs a string change. Because you can see the exact moment where I came in after rushing to put a shirt on, and I didn't even have time to tune the guitar. Sure, I had been playing it yesterday, so it was kind of in tune, but I probably didn't even check if it was in tune the day before. And look at that. It not only happened to be in tune, but perfectly in tune. I love that guitar. It very quickly turned to be probably my favorite guitar, or at least the one where I feel the most inspired to play. It just feels like home.
Performance-wise, it really wasn't that cool. I mentioned yesterday on the vlog that I really needed to keep my focus, and I really had to make sure I didn't make any mistakes because I wasn't locked in, and I was completely unlocked in. I couldn't be more out of focus, which, it makes sense. I'm not particularly surprised, but yeah, I was kind of hoping to get it a little bit right. Completely forgot about that.
Okay, maybe a little bit over dramatic. It wasn't that bad, but yeah, at the time it really felt like it wasn't as cool as it could have been of a take. Which brings me to say, the full recording isn't really perfect. When it comes to guitar playing, there's some mistakes in there. There's some things that I would change if I could. Not even talking arrangement style, but like I said, this is a live take from pseudo 10 days of working on it. It's not a project that I've been working for years or trying to work on. It's just something cool that I decided to try out. And like I mentioned in the vlog, or am going to mention depending on where this gets cut in, it's an experience. And for me, it's fun to look at this experience and be like, hey, this is what happened in those 10 days. Cool.
Near the last chorus, started not hearing right because the room wasn't very good acoustics wise, a lot of natural reverb, and I couldn't really cut any of it out by cutting some low end and shelving some frequencies out because I didn't have enough time. But yeah, I think overall, people enjoyed it, and it's one of those things. When you make your own arrangement, people don't really know what your arrangement sounds like, so if you fuck it up, unless you fuck it up really hard, most people ain't really gonna notice. Hopefully, as you're watching this video, my interpretation of the song is released, and you can go check it out anywhere you listen to your music at. As much of today's recording as possible, get the experience of the live feel. And yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments. I didn't want to not mention that we got a little bit of a swag bag. Yeah, there we go. Funny tote bag. Some cultural stuff to it. Pretty neat if you care about these things. So we're gonna do, I guess, a pseudo unboxing, or what would it be? An unbagging?
Unbagging.
An unbagging.
And tote bagging.
Yeah, and an untote bagging of whatever they got me. So we got a musical guide, 15 musical personality. Led Zeppelin, Genesis, okay, Beatles, Rolling Stones, John Coltrane,
George Palmer.
Yeah, and George Paul, some Portuguese artists as well. I'm guessing this is like what?
No, I'm guessing he picked.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, escolhas.
Oh, there you go. Big name artist, or at least relevant name artist. Portuguese artist, by the way. And whatever he suggests you listen to. These are a lot of pages. This is way too much stuff. Okay, this is kind of cool. I mean, if you're into music like I am, it's cool to see everyone's recommendations and stuff. And even to learn about new artists. Like, there's plenty of artists here that I don't know anything about. So it would be cool to check out. I mean, on one hand, meh, but pretty cool culturally. There you go.
It's Spotify Unwrapped.
Yeah.
Knock edition.
Batteries, cool. I mean, you know what it is? I think since they're doing like a camera shoot,
Yeah.
this is probably for the cameras, right? They probably just got the camera toes back. I mean, they look like cool batteries, not gonna lie. Better than the ones I use most of it. Let's see here. Oni, your money your way. Oh, okay. It's a notebook out of recycled paper. Okay. So little like post-it notes out of recycled paper and little recycled pencil. I mean, listen, it makes sense according to this type of chain of stores, right? To be ecologically friendly and whatever. Like, and it has a magnet for your fridge. So you put this on your fridge.
Keep notes.
Yeah, and you can keep notes and stuff. My mom's gonna love this for sure. What else? Also from Wani, this is for the photographer stuff. If one of your pictures gets selected, you get to win some sort of awards or prizes or stuff.
We didn't take pictures, so.
I don't know about you, but I suck at taking pictures and recording videos. So, by the way, you should leave like a shout out to Ricardo in the comment section below because he was our cameraman not only for today, but for pretty much every single song in Brad Baker Demos Volume 3. He was a big help. I mentioned it in another video, which you probably didn't watch, but I shouted you out in another video. Yeah, there's the little thingy that says Mark because now I'm part of the staff, I guess. Oh, of course, and I got paid. I'm gonna be honest, I knew I was going to get paid, but it doesn't say how much I got paid. Once again, Mark from the future here, and I got paid 50 euros, which isn't a lot, but at the same time, it's alright for like just a couple of hours of going and playing a song. And like, yeah, I went through all the effort of making a super cool version and whatever, but in technicality, maybe it wasn't required. Like, I could have just learned the song and played it any other way, not take any gear, not worry about it for like 10 days, and 50 bucks for all that work ain't too bad. And for someone who originally was expecting to not get paid at all, I think it's a fair deal, especially considering something that I'll mention after this portion. But I want to let you know that those 50 bucks actually helped funding the 80 euros basically that a copy for Death Stranding 2 for the PS5 was around at that time. Kinda crazy that games are 80 bucks right now, but anywho. In some ways, it's kinda cool because I did something for a cultural event and I spent it in something cultural for me. It was an investment expense on my own artistic enrichment, and I gotta say, Death Stranding 2, pretty cool. In some ways, better gameplay than Death Stranding 1, but it just lost the charm in some ways. But hey, we love Kojima in this household, so we're not gonna complain. And even though he says he doesn't want to do it, I kinda hope he does a Death Stranding 3. But honestly, like, Olivia, she is really nice to me all the time. She's been super supportive of the whole Brad Baker Demos projects and stuff. So she told me like, hey, listen, we don't have the budget. I would have pressed like X'd out on that because FNAC has budget to pay me. But yeah, I would have come and played without receiving any compensation just because she asked. But
because it drives me everywhere, so.
in case you want to encourage Ricardo to take his driver's license so I don't have to drive him everywhere all the time, you know, you leave it in the comment section as well.
Now I want to give a special shout out to this lady whose name I completely forgot because I'm super awful with people's names. Like, I'll see someone's face and be like, yeah, I definitely know you from somewhere, or even like best case scenario, I'm like, oh, I know you from this specifically, but I'm very bad with people's names. She was amazing. Like, watching back the footage, like seeing her in the back, she was like, yeah, this is really cool. Like, she was enjoying what I was doing. Like, this is kind of an example of what we do this for. I did my own arrangement and my own version just because I thought it was cool, because I wanted to do it. I didn't care what other people think, but seeing that people enjoyed it and seeing people's reaction to it, like, yeah, obviously during the photo shoot, people were enjoying it, people were taking photos, people like clapped at the end. Some people didn't really care, as it happens in audiences, but like, a special shout out to this girl because like, she was amazing. She came and like thanked me for the performance and telling me like that she really enjoyed it, like when I finished playing too. And I of course appreciate that she took the time to tell me that she enjoyed it, but like, watching the video, like, special shout out to her. And there was also this fun moment with her and one of her colleagues where I wished it was caught on camera. In some situation, her and her colleague were dancing. I kind of like just jammed along and gave her some music because they're like, hey, yeah, Marco can accompany us, right? And it was really fun. I enjoyed the vibe of the whole team and chemistry. And even when Ricardo and I, like, we packed all of our things and we were going back to the car, some members of the team and the staff just came by and were like, thank you again for everything that you did. We appreciate that you took the time and effort to help us out. I talked about before how Filipa had actually selected me between like other musicians of Viseu that participated in another FNAC contest for me to go show my Brad Baker Demos project. And she was really nice back then. She was really nice here too. But like, the whole team, they all treated me really nicely. I really appreciate that they took the time to be nice, you know. Not every employee likes to do do that nowadays. The staff of the museum were really nice too. The place is pretty and it has some important historical significance, not only in Portugal in general, but also in our district. It was a museum dedicated to Aristides Sousa Mendes, an important figure in Portuguese culture during the Holocaust. I'll leave a brief clip out of the presentation of one of the museum staff, but please feel free to do some of your own research as well.
Adivinhem que esta família também era muito apaixonada por música e estamos precisamente naquela que era a zona de bairros da Casa de Educação. Os 15 filhos de Aristides, todos tinham 2 cursos superiores, um curso de universidade e um curso de conservatório, que eram todos apaixonados por música e todos tocavam um instrumento musical. Portanto, há aqui uma ligação forte entre a música e a família Sousa Mendes. Os maiores portugueses de sempre, e em 1940 alteraram o rumo da história contra ordens superiores, que salvou perto de 30 mil pessoas do Holocausto Nazi.
And if you're in the area, go come up to check the museum, and even if you want from some other country, you want to like give a donation to the museum or something like that, I'm guessing they would really appreciate that too.
But yeah, I mean, overall thoughts, it was fun. It was a cool experience. Like I mentioned in the first part of the vlogging series, I was expecting to cover this song at some point. I think this song is pretty cool. I kind of want to change it now. Like I kind of want to do a better job where I'm not just restricted to 10 days of working on it, but I kind of feel like that's kind of what's fun about it, is what can we do in 10 days. I'm sure some of you guys could have done better in 10 days, and if so, do that challenge yourselves and show us what you got, because like in some ways I don't really care. Like, you know, if you're just gonna complain, just complain in your own platform, I guess. Thanks again, Ricardo, for all of your help. You're the boss. Thanks, Filipa, again, for inviting us. Thanks.
Knack.
Exactly. Thank you, FNAC, for being a platform not only for events like this, but culture in general. It's something that's important, even if people do complain about these things. Like, I don't know. I mean, for Americans watching this, it's kind of weird, but imagine like Walmart was doing like some sort of promotional event, you know? It was kind of weird, but in some ways, you know, it's what we got, and, you know, they actually do some interesting things. Thank you for everyone who watched this far. The support really means a lot. I hope to see you in another video, and until we see And until we see you in another video, cheers.